Hey guys, just a quick note for just before the podcast starts. For those that have been requesting it, we are now on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, we're on the Google Podcast store as well. So we're in all the main places. Links in the description if you want to get the audio version of the podcast. This week's podcast is longer than normal, so usually we do about 2 hours. This one was 3 hours because we got a Blizzard blue post about the leatherworking changes in the middle of our podcast, so we kind of extended the podcast length a bit. But yeah, timestamps in description as always, guys. And if you want to catch us live, come over to twitch.tv/Snomi, give us a follow, and you can watch the next podcast live. But take care, guys. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. All right, guys. Welcome to episode 4. Is it 4? Yeah, 4. I'm already losing count at 4.
Uh-oh.
We've been doing this for a whole month now. Welcome to episode 4 of Prepared, your weekly TBC breakdown, and a little bit of classic news thrown in there as well, since we're leading up to TBC still. Today we're going to cover beta launch, of course. That's a big topic of the day. Beta launch, who should and shouldn't be in beta, weird drum changes and other updates on PTR as far as like the whole bugginess and the changes that are on PTR. We're going to cover maybe a little bit of the PvP talk as well. TBC mount and the data mined information. There's a potential paid cash shop mount on the way. We'll discuss that. And as well as that, a lot of people asked us to discuss Madseason's boosting video. So Zirene did watch a bunch of it. I took full notes of all his points and things as well. So we're going to go through that as well. And then if we have time at the end, we can cover a little bit of speedrun talks and things like that, depending on how we go. And Zirene, I don't know if you saw this, the Blizzard game time change that just went live in the last, or the news broke in the last few hours.
I saw my guild talking about it, but I didn't see it because I was working. So
yeah.
What is the change?
So the change is that Blizzard is removing. You can't buy 30 days of just straight up game time without a sub anymore. Before you could. Now it's just the only option is if you want to buy just straight game time without a sub, you gotta pay for 60 days just at once.
Without a sub.
Yeah, without a sub. But if you're just doing normal month-to-month recurring sub, it doesn't affect you at all. You can still do 30 days, 180 days, 60 days, whatever it is. So it just seems like a move to get people off the buying a 30-day sub or a 30-day just game time without a sub. Mm-hmm. It seems like they're just trying to either push people towards subbing straight off, or it might impact bots as well. There's the whole talk of whether that'll impact the bots that buy 30 days of game time, but I'm not sure if it really impacts them that much.
Oh man. I don't know why they would do this personally. I'm not sure why, because I work for a company that has a, what is it? For working for pro guides, there's a lot of criticism on the only thing you can do is sub for a year for the program. Ooh, right? That's all you can do. Yeah. And I was like, why is it like this when I joined? And they were like, well, our investors were like, you should just make it like this. And so they did. And I just think it's really bad for the people who want to buy your product, because you lock them into it for so long and they may not use it forever. And it's the same kind of trap that gift cards are, right? Gift cards are actually really lucrative for companies because people will get gift cards and not use them, or get gift cards and use half of it for something that actually costs more, or actually that costs less than what the gift card is, right? So you waste $5, but spend $20 of somebody else's money on something that's $15 if you don't use the whole gift card. It's kind of like that, where people are wasting money because they aren't getting the full value. So it's really strange to me that you would do this, and it's the same strange thing with pro guides, because I'm okay, I'll put it this way: if you're a drug dealer, not that I've had any experience with these guys, the first hit is always free, because if their product is good, they know you'll come back, right? If they make you pay for the first hit, then the shit's fucked and you should get out of there, right? And you shouldn't buy from that person, because if it's good and they know their product's good, if you build it, they will come, kind of thing. And this here seems like a weird strategy to try and stop bots, but it actually just harms the players who actually, use that and aren't completely committed. And what it's doing is it's forcing people to commit to Blizzard in a way that they have always been free to not do. And that just feels really off to me, where I'm just not sure why they would do it. They feel like it might crack down on bots, but I just don't really buy that that's going to harm them, and instead it causes harm to the player that actually like buys month to month like that. So
Yeah. Well, speaking from my experience, so I did a lot of marketing work with monthly recurring subs and things like that in the past.
yeah,
I'm a bit of a one of my passions is marketing. I find marketing really interesting because how two people can have the exact same product, but one person can change like one line in the title, and suddenly their product is way more desirable or something
mm,
along those lines. But one interesting thing I've always found is that the very best marketers, they give away a lot of stuff for free,
mhm,
assuming their product is good because they know that they can make it up on the back end. And
mhm,
it's actually a very, very, very common marketing strategy. Um, One of the biggest marketers of all time. So people might know about direct response marketing. It's pretty much those guys that, what was it, 5 years ago, everyone was making those long form internet pages where you would have to scroll for 5 years and there's all these boxes that sub now for 60 days, credit card information required. And it's these long form spammy looking pages that people would go on. And one
mhm.
of the guys that was the first guy doing it, there's this guy called David D'Angelo. His real name's Eben Pagan. He sold a book called Double Your Dating. So he's one of the founders of the entire dating for men recurring sub movement. And he actually will pay and lose money to get people to buy his first product. Like he actually
Hmm.
actively
Yeah,
loses money because
yeah.
he
You spend
knows
money to make money.
yeah, he knows that if you buy his first product, you're probably gonna buy more products. So he will
Mhm.
actually purposely like lose $10 on sending ads to you until you buy his first product because he knows you're gonna keep subbing and you're gonna buy more after on the back end.
Yeah, it's also product familiarity. Like, for example, if I go into a supermarket, I've just moved to Los Angeles for out of my parents' house for the first time. What laundry detergent am I going to buy? I have no fucking idea about laundry detergent. I'm probably going to buy the one that my parents were buying because it's familiar to me. And if I can't find that, I'm probably going to find something that has the same name label or something that I've seen on TV. And I've been like, you know what? Tide seems good. And I've seen my friends have it. So when you are kind of, I would say, exposed to something that is like that has competitors and you are kind of just able to get familiarity with it in any way shape or form, whether it was free, your parents had it, your friend had it, it's always just good for those people. That's why commercials even exist, is they buy the airtime to send you something that literally loses. They don't earn money when they send you a commercial. They don't earn money. That's an investment in the long term of they're getting into your brain. And then eventually when you go to the store, you're going to be like, you know what? I saw that product on TV. Or even then, you won't even recognize it consciously and just be like, that product seems like nice to me. I don't know why. And you'll buy it, right? So this stuff is like really deep rooted in psychology. But to go back to the bot point here, the two things that I could see them doing this for is one, to lock the people who are coming in for TBC into more than just 1 month of playing, right?
Mm.
It would lock them in because they are new players. They haven't been a sub to WoW before. They're going to be locked in for 2 months if they don't want to commit completely. That earns Blizzard money if they don't end up playing even in the future, right? Secondly, it makes it riskier for bots to be on. It just makes it riskier for bots in general because if a bot comes in, gets banned instantly, they paid for 2 months, right?
Mm.
Instead of one. So they're making more money off of bots when they find them and ban them and just get rid of them, right? So they had to commit to 2 months. You don't get a refund when you get fucking banned, by the way. So they just take your money. So those are the two reasons that I could see it. The first one, locking people in seems a little bit like counterintuitive to what Blizzard's been all about and what I like Blizzard for, because I don't want to like demonize the company or anything. And the second one seems a little bit more like what they would want to do and try to dissuade people who bought. But I just don't think it will, especially if they can make more money than it would cost. Sure, it'll cut into their profits, but if it's still remotely lucrative for them, then they'll do it. And this just harms the average player that buys those things. Now, I don't know people who actually buy game time. I don't know if you know people who buy game time like that. I've just always been subbed and just been like, fuck it when I don't want it anymore. And I just
Yeah,
cut it off
yeah.
at that month. So I'm just not one of those people, and I don't really know anybody who does it that way. So maybe it's the right move from Blizzard because
Yeah.
maybe the bots like overwhelmingly sign up that way.
I mean, from just from a just basic revenue standpoint, I can kind of understand it from a pure revenue standpoint in that every company will always tell you that recurring subs is the moneymaker. That's where they want all their income coming from because it makes it more reliable. They don't really want people to ever be buying up like incremental time like that. They would always rather people sub because you're gonna get extra money from people that forget to cancel their subs.
Yep.
You're gonna get people who pretty much just don't mind and just never bother canceling it even if they know they've got the sub running. Like I have friends who are still paying for EverQuest sub. They haven't played EverQuest for 2 years, and they're like, "Oh no, I'll play it eventually. I'll go back to that. It's fine." We'll just leave that
I
sub
think
running.
I think I'm still subbed for like Nintendo online from like Animal Crossing days. So that's really cheap. That's like $6 or something like that. I remember my 24-hour fitness gym membership for a while back in
God.
the day. Like I was like when I changed my credit card and then I got an email, I was like, oh yeah, I guess I was still subbed. Okay, whatever. And like paid that off and then was like, can I cancel? And they're like, you have to come in to do that. And I'm like, I don't even live close to you guys anymore. They try to make it as hard as possible to get out of it.
Oh yeah, man. I was all for that with the gym membership. If you guys want to study someone that really knows how to push monthly memberships, go look at how gyms push their memberships. They've got that down to a science. But yeah, honestly, I don't think it's like a bad move. I don't think it's a good move either. It's just a weird move. It's just it's like just an odd move because it doesn't affect anyone that's already subbed. It only affects people that are paying month to month. So yeah, I don't know. Just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, and paying month to month, you could still do that with a sub and just cancel it, right?
Yeah, absolutely you can. So it probably doesn't even affect like 99% of people. I don't know many people that actually do just pick up that one-time sub, non-sub game time.
And they have the data. That's the thing, right? Is like Blizzard has the data, and I'm going to trust them on this one here where they've discovered that bots overwhelmingly use this method to sub, right? Or to get game time. And if that's the case, then it is the right move because it's affecting very little of the population I guess I'll put it this way. This is a move that affects such a small population of the people who actually play the game and pay that way versus the bots that overwhelmingly sub this way and affect a larger portion of the player base via breaking the economy, etc. So this is a net positive for the average person because they don't have to deal with as many bots doing this and like paying this way, etc. And it also helps Blizzard because if the bots get banned, then they paid for more time. So I would say it's kind of a win-win for them there. And that the players, if bots, end up getting banned in some way, shape, or form, then hopefully, fingers crossed, then the players will feel like the economy is better and all of that. So that I think that's what they're trying to do is just make it so it's riskier to bot and dissuade them. But
yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
I mean, I don't think it's such a bad move for the average player. I mean, it hurts the person who does sub that way, but I just don't know many people who do that.
Yeah.
So, like I said, they'll have the data. They'll have the data.
But yeah, I mean, how you been, man? I saw your Raidmasters, unfortunate run at Raidmasters. Unlucky.
Yeah, that was really unfortunate because I mean, we were number one for the first week, and then coming into the second week, we changed up some strategies. We did a little bit more like tiny refining of things. And the biggest, like the worst part about it for us was it just started to feel really off as soon as we started that run. Like tiny things seemed off. Like I couldn't quite put my finger on it. It was like one person was late to like tanking Moon and it war stomped and like stomped the healers, the A-bomb. And then one person died, and then we were just like, okay, this is really weird. We get to Fairlina, the Warlock pulls when the tank isn't even in the front yet because he was like finishing up the Gigapull. And then the tanks with all the Fury Warriors, Fairlina runs at the Warlock, the tank has to hit it, and then position it, and then all the Warriors in front of Fairlina and parry haster to all hell and get him killed. And I'm just like, that's something that we have never done before. And people are just way too antsy. People were like getting in front of the tanks, which like obviously it means people are feeling really anxious. They're excited, and I don't blame them because right before that we put up back-to-back 49-minute runs on PTR which was world record at the time.
Yeah.
And so I think it was the first time people were going, we can actually be number one and have the world record if we do this. Like, oh my God. And then right before that, of course, Noda has a 48-minute time.
Yeah.
But we were confident that if we had just done the run cleanly from start to finish, the way we had on PTR back to back, then we would have been world record holders. And I think that got to people because I think this is the first time that Rain had really ever been competitive for a number one spot. So that kind of sucked. But all in all, I'm always happy that those things happen because it means next time you better best fucking believe people aren't going to parry haste Faelina because they know it's cost them a run now. So that's the type of thing where I'm like, I'm glad it happens. And that's why people PTR, because you fuck up over and over again, right? You mess up on a pull and then people go, okay, I can't do it that way. Then you do it again. Can't do it that way, et cetera, et cetera. And so it's all about repetition. It's all about messing up and then just refining your strategies over time. And so it's just a basic thing that people drop the ball on. Like everybody's focused so hard on like the big things, they forget the tiny things. And the tiny things are really what matter in optimizing your time, because the big things are just scripted. You get it down, you like drill it into your brain, and then you go. And the tiny things are everybody's individual responsibility on what you have to do at this part of the instance. So it sucks that happened, but third, I mean, I'm not unhappy.
You got what, like your $40 each or something? How much?
It's $2,000 divided amongst 40 people, so it's $50 each. which I was saying, I was like, you know what this is? This is if they allow faction changes, our entire guild swaps horde. Okay, so it's paid for. That's what we were doing. So we're holding that money for now. It's being distributed to each person via email. And then if faction changes become a thing, or if we want to change servers, then the entire guild is expected to do so because they all have the money given to them, right? That type of thing. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I promise, guys, if you don't want to listen to Speedrun, I know some people in the YouTube comments, they don't want to listen to too much Speedrun talk, but I timestamp everything. So if you don't like it and you're listening on YouTube, you can just skip this section and we won't talk too long about it. But yeah, I mean, the progress did set as well 40. Well, I'm allowed to publicly give the time. I'm not allowed to say other details, but it is 46:50. I think it's 46:54. Time.
Oh, okay.
Online.
Yeah, Tetsu's timer was 46:59, and I was like, that's like 47. Everybody's like, there's a 46-minute time, and I was like, really? I see the timer. I'm like, that's just fucking 47 minutes minus 1 second. Come on, man. Like, but that's been racking my brain this entire time, and I've just been thinking because when I see something like that, and you can't see the VOD, I sit there and go, what did they do? Did they do the things that I've been thinking of? But think it's too much to change in the raid? Like I've been trying to change up our start, like from like a theoretical standpoint, and be like, is it really a time save to do things this way? Are we just overcomplicating it? And why don't we just run the fucking instance from start to finish, start with Plague, etc.? Then you'll have Death Wish for both Noth and Makesna instead of Makesna, run to Noth, don't not have it type thing. So I've been trying to like think of things like that, but it's just going to be too much of a shift if we don't get enough PTR days in.
Yeah.
So that's the thing is you have to, when you make changes like this, make sure that what you're practicing is a time save. So before I present this to officers, I have to time it myself and make sure that it is actually going to save us time, or else we throw all this shit into like 40 people's brains, and then we go, okay, this actually isn't working, back to the old strategy, and you wasted practice time. It's the same thing with like in League of Legends. This is why pro players, just to like go back to League for a second, I know not everybody cares or knows about that stuff, but it's my background, where pro players, people will be like, why aren't they like playing new champions or practicing new things? It's like, they won't do that until somebody else shows them it's good, because that's you only have a finite amount of practice time and hours in your day, and need to refine X amount of champions, X amount of compositions. And if you're investing time into something that turns out to suck, you wasted time compared to everybody else who's practicing other things that might be better. So they wait for other people to show them that it's good. And that's just the long and the short of it, is people won't try things until someone else shows them that they're good, unless they're the true innovators who can prove before they do it that it's actually a good thing to do. So
yeah. I mean, the meta is interesting right now as well, because you and me were talking about that in messages as well, where because PTR's around right now, it opens the gates to a lot of innovation and testing right now, where before someone showed you a new strat, you had to think, okay, we only have like 2 runs or something. Do we actually want to
Yeah.
try this? Because no one's tested this. We don't know how to do this properly. Whereas now, if a new strat comes out, everyone's going to hit PTR. They're going to practice it. They're going to get it down, and then they're going to come to the next DMF with it. So that's why this whole like debate around hiding logs and VODs and all that came about. But the most interesting thing I saw was at Raidmasters, I saw Tribes was also memeing with the hiding logs and VODs thing as well. But I mean, when I looked at that, I thought this is kind of a weird one for you guys to do this meme, because you guys are hiding strats as well. Like, you guys came to Raidmasters and purposely did a worse run, and you're hiding strats. Like, well, why didn't you guys pull out your fancy strats? Maybe you don't want people copying those strats? Huh? Maybe?
Yeah, maybe, because Tribe, I know, like you said, Tribe actually has alluded to having strategies. I don't know exactly what they are, but like Sarth knows as well, and Sarth is like, he alluded to it during the cast that he's like, Tribe is probably going to do something that we've never seen anyone do before, and then they just had a regular run. It was like, okay, wait a second,
like you guys lost your right to meme now. You guys are hiding as well.
Yeah,
like, what are you guys doing?
I mean, maybe they were memeing that they had strategies. Who knows?
See, now we're getting really into the theory of it. Like, people are going to start pretending they have extra times. But yeah. I mean, that's speedrun talk anyway.
Rain, we got nothing. We got bad brains over here. We don't have extra strategies. We got nothing, man. We're just trying to get top 3, be on the front page by the end of this whole thing, which I think we're capable of doing. We just got to make sure that everybody's still motivated come next Dark Moon Fair. So that's all.
Yeah,
which will be hard with TBC.
Oh yeah. I mean, the most interesting thing is like if TBC comes out in like 2 months or something, we only get one more fair. Like, this is like the last. This might be the last hurrah. Which is why everyone's so stressed. Everyone's pushing for like this last thing, because all the things before those are kind of like qualifying tournaments. Really, all that matters is who's there at the end, who won at the end of the phase, and that's what everyone's practicing for. That's why there's so much stress. That's why everyone's hiding stuff, and no one wants to keep the cards close to their chest so that no one gets their strats.
Yeah, nobody really. What is it? Nobody really wants to be the ones who get knocked out of the top, and they want to stay ahead of the curve. So, like I said, people are racking their brains right now. I have there's crazy fucking theories where I'm just like, okay, what if you leave a paladin outside of Fairlena? How many Petries extra do you have? Can you wrap up that skitter in 2 crypt packs together and actually do another giga pull using just dense dynamite? That type of thing, right? With Ramsteins being off cooldown. So it's stuff like that where I'm like, my brain is trying to figure out what the next big time save is, because shaving off 2 minutes plus of a time is actually, it means that they aren't just having a solid run on what we're currently doing. They're adding 1 to 2 more things in. And I'm even like, but my brain is just going like, is it that where you have a paladin outside with another Petri pool? Is it where you have somebody or you have everybody on Noth because you get a potion on Noth because you speed potion in, get the gargoyles, etc. Your potion comes up at the end of Noth. Are you free action potioning all the way through the gauntlet to Heigen and then everybody's sappering because your sapper's back off cooldown and you don't use it on Heigen to kill the ads, which is kind of useless. You just run into Heigen or on Noth, sorry, and then you run into Heigen with all the ads on you guys and you free action through, and then you just AoE everything down with sappers, boom, it just blows up and you just start doing the fight, because that'll save you at least 10-15 seconds just in that room, maybe even 20 or 30. So there's stuff like that my brain is just trying to figure out what it is and what it could possibly be, and trying to string things together, because you could do both of those things and then save a maybe minute. So there's a lot of stuff that I'm trying to figure.
Well, I mean, to wrap up the speedrunning talk before people start yelling at us again in the comments, that what I would love to see is if everyone comes with innovative strategies. I would love to see a meta where everyone comes in with new strategies. And you see all these guilds come up with new things, and you don't know who's actually in the lead on these runs. Like, one thing I loved about World First races is that when the Naxx race was there, everyone was almost doing different strategies and routes for the most part at the start. So you didn't know who was winning. You didn't know what was the ideal strategy. I really like it at MMOs when people don't know what's going on, because I think it adds that element of, oh, this is new. This is new and interesting. Whereas I think it gets a bit stale on speedruns when everyone's doing the exact same strategy, and
and you can measure they're both here at this time. Yeah,
it's like, I mean, the run's over 2 minutes in. It's done. They can't catch up now, or something like that.
I mean, as somebody who like studies speed runs to compare and learn from, uh, it kind of sucks when people don't do the same thing, because when you're like trying to create checkpoints and be like, we hit A bomb wing at 28 minutes. And then we're like, well, noobs hit it at 27 minutes. And I'm like, no, but they hadn't actually pulled the free action they didn't do that pull at the start. So we did that one. How much like, so I'm like, well, you can't measure where we actually are until like patchwork or something. And that's when you can be like, okay, what time do we both pull patchwork? So it's shit like that, where if somebody does like an extra pull or two that other people didn't at the beginning, or they went down a different wing, you have to just find where things line up. And that's like the actual first checkpoint you can have of true comparison. That, or you just take wing times and you just compare wing times, which I thought was something cool that Raidmasters had done, was they took wing times as well as the kill times of bosses.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean that's Speedrun talk. I promise you guys we wouldn't talk too much about it. Yeah. So let's talk about some TBC stuff. I did see, by the way, that so one of my guildies messaged me the other day and said, "Hey, did you know that you're on Reddit?" And I'm like, well, I don't submit it to Reddit. And then they're like, oh, okay, I guess I'll go check it out. And I saw that you had been in a fun discussion on the Reddit thread. Yeah, someone posted the bit about Zirene's 5 warrior melee comp for TBC. And there was some intense discussion, you could say, on Reddit regarding that. And this is why I don't really participate in Reddit that much, is because
Reddit is fun. Reddit is fun. Reddit is fun. Reddit is really fun. I will tell you guys straight up, like I am okay. This is going to be a little like, background on me. I was a person who I frequented 4chan back in the day. I was what people would call a B-tard. I would go to 4chan, I'd go to the random section. I participate in forums when I was a kid. And then when Reddit came out, I'd participate in that. And I was like a big Reddit poster and all of that stuff. And then when I got hired by Riot, my boss hated that I would post on Reddit. Like my boss actually hated that I would post on Reddit. I had so many conversations with him where he would pull me aside and be like, why'd you post on this? And I'm like, what? I'm interacting with them. It's just a positive thing, bro. Like, what the heck? And then, and even when I was like not being snarky or that things like that, when I was actually being nice or thanking people, he was kind of like, just like keep your distance kind of thing from Reddit. I'm like, but it's the public, it's the people. We're supposed to be interacting with the people, about the players. I want to be up all in that, have the player experience and stuff. But I got talked to multiple times for my behavior on Reddit. So, but I love Reddit.
So set the context. I clicked on this thread and I'm like, oh, I wonder what they're saying, because I couldn't find it for a while. Then I just thought, what controversial things did we say? So I just typed in Zirene and then sorted it by World of Warcraft Classic. And I was like, oh, okay, here we go. Zirene from... And they even got the title wrong, by the way. They said you were in the Horde Guild or whatever. And then
they thought I was a troll.
Yeah, I clicked on it and there was just a whole bunch of back and forth with you and another guy typing these essay-length responses. And I was like, this is why I don't post on Reddit anymore. Now I remember.
Dude, it was one of those things where so as somebody who is not as much of a public figure anymore, thank God, I find it's okay to get down in the dirt and discuss things with people and prove them wrong or go back and forth. But when I was a public figure, it was kind of like, you can't respond to everybody because it's just not scalable and there's too many people who dislike you, right? Because you think about if there's 1%, let's just say there's 1% of the population that doesn't like you, right? And that's just being only 1% downvotes or something like that on a video, whatever. If there's only 1% of the population that dislikes you, as soon as you scale that up to being exposed to 1 million people, then that's a lot of people who could type you messages. And then you're just swamped all day if you respond to them. And I had learned that you don't actually respond to people who are not being constructive or have genuine feedback. You don't respond to those people because you don't want to teach people that the way to get your attention is be negative. Instead, you should be reinforcing the people who respond positively and say this is a great video and stuff like that. You should respond to those people because it'll make them more likely to comment in the future and create a positive feedback loop, as opposed to people who have a lot of negative things to say. And you can tell right away that they just don't enjoy what you're doing or they want to get a rise out of you. You don't respond to those people.
Are you saying that the guy named Oh My God, What the Fuck Pwned, who commented on my Vanish testing video that said, I'm an idiot, Thunder Fury is not BIS, rogues look dumb using it, is not providing constructive comments to my YouTube video.
He's not wrong about the last point, and maybe the first point. No,
I love the best part about that comment is not even this. I don't even know what he's talking about. I don't talk about Thunder Fury in the entire video. He's just like an angry guy that just hates Thunder Fury rogues.
Yeah, but that's the thing is like as soon as you respond to him and say like, "Hey, I don't know what's going on here. Like you didn't like I wasn't even talking about Thunder Fury in this video and all of that stuff." And he'll respond and then you get this back and forth. And instead it's just like don't engage that person. They're not being constructive or anything like that. You know what's really funny is I used to think of it as like you're either being positive or your feedback is either positive or people are like, "Oh, it's negative feedback," right? I used to think it's positive or it's growth opportunities, right? Like, "Oh, you're kind of weak in this area. You should work on this." But somebody recently told me it was like criticism or feedback is either positive or it's future positive, where it might feel bad now to hear this feedback, but in the future, it's actually beneficial. So there's positive feedback and future positive feedback. So in anything that you don't feel like is going to be future positive for you, you just ignore.
Well, I hope your long conversation. I actually didn't read all of it because I saw
That's
your
great.
replies and I was like, okay, this is taking up too much time. I don't have time to read all this.
Yeah. Which is really funny because at one point the guy was kind of just like the guy was no longer like attacking the argument. He was attacking the presentation of the argument or the duration of what I was explaining. So it was like, this is too long kind of thing. And I was like, okay, this is where I'm losing him.
Yeah, well, I mean,
and then, oh man,
I heard Reddit described to me by, I think it was the Rooster Teeth, way back in the day, the Rooster Teeth podcast, another gaming crew that started out in Machinima and such. But they described Reddit as the ultimate game of telephone, where anyone will say anything with complete confidence that they are right, even when they are wrong. And if they get enough upvotes, they've just determined like, oh, this must be right. Like your hair could, they could be like, no, Zirene's hair is actually red, and they will get enough upvotes, and someone will be like, are you sure? It's like, yeah, no, trust me, I know his friend's sister. It's like suddenly the word of the street is like, yeah, Zirene's hair is actually red. He dyes it because he doesn't want his red hair to be shown on screen.
Well, here's my favorite thing is like that is I've kind of watched an evolution of different things that had surrounded me drama wise. Like there was a thing where like I was in a streamer house and there was drama there, and I've looked at like the different like things and presentations of the story from other people who are like, I'm out of the loop. What happened here? And someone explains it to them, gets a lot of upvotes, and it's like it's not close to correct at all. And then there's one where like people like speculate about why I left Riot, and then there's some people who are like, you know, he got fired, he didn't get fired. Like there's all these different things, and they will get upvotes, and then the ones that like people don't want to agree with get downvotes. So it's like he got fired for the thing where he was late in like October or something, and it was just like they're phasing him out, and I'm like, damn, this is a fucking conspiracy theory and a half, man. Like holy shit. And so there's all these things, and people will misquote me and like attribute something to me that was like a Reddit thread had said, and it was like the #1 comment during that drama. So it was really funny how like things get added to a story, like you said, telephone wise, where I didn't say this, Reddit said this, and then they put it in my mouth later, and I was like, damn, that's actually so funny. Because like you said, somebody would be like, trust me, and then people would be like, oh, this is part of the story now. So it's really funny to see that. I actually find that so funny. But to go back to like a TBC topic, that composition, with the release of beta, I am becoming more and more confident in that composition's ability, minus or plus a hunter or minus and plus a warlock, to actually function. Like I know a lot of bosses have unfriendly mechanics for melee, but right now, even leveling wise,
I'll pull it up like, so people can see this code.
Yeah. Right now, leveling wise, even like melee cleave is doing really well in dungeons right now, like really well. Because like they don't have to stop for mana. Things aren't dying fast enough in dungeons. They have a lot more HP than people expected. Even with Naxx gear, things are dying really slowly right now. Compared to like you could pull a ton of shit before. So stuff's dying really, really slowly. And the uptime that melee has is actually really high. And the thing is, you'd have to like bring a Shadow Priest or something into your into your leveling group to really allow like uptime for casters. So it's been this weird kind of place right now where melee is still really good at this point in the game, and I don't know exactly why. Right, like my theory right now, like I said, is things just aren't dying fast enough in dungeons. It still takes a while, even with Naxx gear, to kill stuff. And casters are just spending way too much mana on just single targets and like single pull packs, and they have to stop in between. So it's a very different game already.
The interesting thing is Fianzi, who's the rogue class leader at Progress, he's actually kind of on board with you on the fact that Fury Warriors might actually legitimately be better than people think in TBC, because he's actually benched his rogue for now. He's not even sure when he'll play his rogue again, because he believes that Fury Warriors are just going to be actually good.
Yeah, like and this is somebody who is really intelligent. Plays rogue, obviously very cultured, and he's a top rogue as well. So he's the best of the best in terms of the cultured people. So I would trust him right now. But. Yeah, I mean, he doesn't want to play expose armor, I think is the idea. Is he doesn't want to play expose armor and be in a raid where, I'll put it this way. Rogues are one of the top DPS classes when they have Warglaives. If you don't have Warglaives, you're kind of just struggling and you want to PvP and get your PvP weapons and be like in my opinion, every rogue, if you want to raid, you have to PvP and PvP at a high level to get your damn weapons, so you don't take them from other people, because you're probably not going to get them. And if you have your PvP weapons already, the raid can never give you a weapon and then be like, okay, you're off Warglaives now. You'll always feed yourself weapons and be able to take Warglaives, because you're like, look at me, for all these phases, I was getting my own weapons. You guys have never had to give me a weapon. Hello, Warglaives. Thank you very much. And just pass on every weapon until Warglaives, legitimately. Like, that would be the strategy as the rogue. But I actually think Fury Warriors, people like talk to me about some things where there's a rage normalization that happens in TBC. So rage generation currently in Classic is calculated via the damage you do, right? It's just purely almost off the damage that you do. In so obviously World Buffs makes it so that not only are you critting, you're just doing more damage with your white hits, etc. So the damage you deal scales with the or your rage scales with the damage you deal. Now in TBC, your rage scales with the speed of your weapon. So weapon speed is the determining factor in how you generate rage. It's not like how much damage you deal, it's the weapon speed, and that's the normalization there. So like a 2.6 speed weapon will generate X amount of rage. If it crits, it generates, X times 2, whatever. So the rage normalization was something people were like trying to say, my argument here for this composition is completely just dismantled. But looking at it on the beta, the way rage normalization worked on release of TBC is it was heavily nerfed. And then they buffed it by at least 25% in the future. So everybody basically got like the 41st talent for arms added to every warrior, because they were like, your rage generation is not good enough. Here's some free fucking rage. Everybody generates 25% more rage. Flurry got nerfed by 5%, but then there's all these other things that go in there that make it so that I still strongly stand behind this, where I think that Fury Warriors are going to be a lot better than people think they are. So it seems like when speedrunning comes around, which is a very new thing for TBC, but people are definitely going to do it because they're coming out of a speedrun where, logs are a thing now. Logs have not existed for TBC in almost any way, shape, or form, to my knowledge, even like on Endless and stuff like that, right? Like having Warcraft logs be something that is supporting that, it gives people something to compete with. So I heavily believe that speedrunning will be a thing, and then people are going to lean towards some melee compositions. Now, yes, Warlocks are good. Seed of Corruption, I know exists, right? I know that it doesn't respect the AoE cap and all of that. So yes, Warlocks are good. I just don't think that cast times are going to be that something that people want to lock themselves into while killing mobs. That's all.
Yeah, but for people that want this, it's on the screen. Again, this is shared in our Discord as well, so you want to grab this, it's in the Discord. So yeah, I just thought that was interesting. The lot of talk on and there's actually more support, slowly more and more support for this idea of the melee comp in TBC.
Yeah, and obviously there's going to be some things in this composition that will not hold up. There might be like, maybe you're bringing a shadow priest instead of a holy priest. Maybe having the circle of healing for the groups is not as important. Maybe you don't need the discipline extra like spell power from spirit talent, right?
Well,
Maybe
people
you
are asking
just
about the
bring
assassination rogue. I think
uh,
it's just listed as assassination.
it's assassination. It's assassination because it's exposed armor, right? Is kind of the idea. Is you want to have exposed armor in there. You're a combat rogue with 41 points in combat, but you go to assassination to get exposed armor. So that's the reason why. It's because if you on this website, if you go to the right hand side, it has a combination of like all the things where it's like this composition is lacking this, it's lacking this thing, it's lacking a survival hunter, right? Even if you put a bunch of hunters in there. So you have to put assassination rogue for it to register expose armor. That's all.
Yeah.
So that's why.
Yeah, but yeah. So I'm curious to see how this will turn out. I think on the topic of the beta, which would be the main thing people probably want us to talk about today.
Mm-hmm.
I know you're not in the beta, Zirene, because you declined to be in the beta. So the beta's out. It's out. People are playing it. What are your thoughts on who should and shouldn't be in beta? Because personally, as like for me, as I know people are saying this is the streamer invite phase because it's like 90%. A lot of people in there are just the streamers. And as a streamer that didn't get in, am I salty a little bit? Yeah, sure. But on the other hand, I actually understand that it's a marketing play to get a lot of streamers in there to get the word of mouth out. Like, I understand that. I understand the play. Although personally, I think they should also invite some top theory crafting people who can test things properly. Like for example, Steppenwolf, who runs the Warrior Discord, who's super theoretical, analytical. It'd be really great if these people could get in the beta as well and start testing things right away, so that we can see like how things work, what's broken, what's not broken, versus just the streamer crew that is mostly in there right now. But yeah, well, what are your thoughts?
So my thoughts are that the people who should be in the TBC beta are the streamers and the people who will provide genuine feedback and bug reports. So people who will like, they understand their class and they may have played back in the day and they're playing the same class or something like that. Like for me, it'd be like if I played Rogue again, I could be like, hey, this feels different than what it did back then. Or played like Holy Paladin and be like, this feels different. So people who, that's kind of what I would say is the most beneficial for Blizzard is from a game standpoint, people will provide actual feedback and bug reports and help them tune the game or help them make the game more like it was back then. And then people who are streamers, but also here's the kicker. If you have only a finite amount of betas to send out, not saying they do, I'm saying they could literally invite everybody if they wanted to. But if you were only inviting X number of people, your best thing to do is to get the streamers who are currently not playing World of Warcraft to play. So, for example, somebody like Asmongold, who is not currently dedicating his time to Classic WoW, right? He hasn't been dedicating his time to Classic WoW. He's been like, it's boring, the content's done kind of thing. That's actually who they should be appealing to. Is that something that I agree with from a like moral standpoint? No. Is it something I agree with from a business standpoint? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because the way that sponsorships work is, for example, Snomi, if you're using a fantastic Shure mic, and you love this thing, and I'm Shure microphones, I'm not going to sponsor you because you're already using my product for fucking free. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go sponsor Shroud, who's using a different microphone, and tell him that he has to use the microphone, show it on his stream, etc. And he doesn't have to talk about it or anything like that, but people will ask who the microphone is, have it in the description below, boom. And I will pay him to use it, right? I don't have to pay you to use microphone because you're already using it and love it. People think that like because someone already loves a product, you'd be like, oh, I love this. You guys should sponsor me and I'll preach it to people. And it's like, you already do that for free, sir. What are you going to do? Change microphones away from one you like? I don't think so. And that's how companies work, right? That's how sponsorships work, is they sponsor the people who aren't using their product to use their product, and those people have enough of a reach that it matters.
Logitech, I'm not using any Logitech products right now. If you want to hit me up. The podcast needs sponsors. Hey, we did 17,000 views first episode, Logitech.
Yeah, you don't, and what you do is you don't sponsor the people who are already using that stuff for free. What you can do though, like what you can do is, let's just say I have, I really love peanut butter. I love this Jif peanut butter.
I like that you just have the
Right?
peanut butter just sitting there.
Hey, don't judge me. Anyway, so let's say I love Jif peanut butter, right? What you can do instead is, if you have my friend did this with a water bottle and they were a big streamer, is they actually put duct tape over the label when they used the thing so that people didn't actually know what it was. So they were using a thing called Hydro Flask, and they love the Hydro Flask, but they actually, see, exactly. They'd use a Hydro Flask, but what they did is they taped over the logo on their stream. So, because they weren't being paid to use it. So they actually never told anyone. They never told anyone what their water bottle was, and they never showed it on stream in terms of what the water bottles company was. And it's the same reason that what is it? On the LCS, on our water bottles, they bring us like a big thing of like water bottles for casting and stuff, and you always have to take the label off of it. You always take the label off of the water bottle. Just done. And you would drink water bottles that had no label on them. I don't know what brand it was, whatever. It's just water. Can we get water normally? Yeah, absolutely. But the thing is you didn't want to ever show a label on stream for two reasons. One, you don't know if that company wants to be associated with that, right? We don't know if Arrowhead Water wants to sponsor the LCS, or if they have some moral thing where they actually don't like us. And they don't pay us for it. If we wanted to, an official water sponsor of the LCS would actually be something that somebody would pay to do. So there's tiny little things like that with sponsorships. And that's why, thinking from a business standpoint, I understand why the streamer click is in the TBC beta, right? I understand it. It is the best business move they can do, is to get those guys to do it, because they also don't have to pay them to do it, because you know that Asmongold will go play TBC. You don't have to pay him for it. You just have to give him the beta because it's good content for him, right? What's good for the goose is good for the gander. Give it to people who are going to play classic beta or classic TBC and are interested in it and have a large audience. That's who you give it to. So if you have a finite amount, you give it to those people.
I mean, the one thing that did disappoint me, though, because I completely agree. I don't have the beta. Blizzard, please let me in. But as someone that missed out, I still understand that. Hey, I understand. You got to give it to Asmongold. You got to give it. Even some people that don't even play WoW, that you give it to them because you get exposure and such. But the one thing that did disappoint me a little bit was that it seemed that the list for who they gave it to might be old, even. Because looking at some of the, I won't name names because I don't want to send any hate to anyone else or anything like that, because it's not their fault that they got invited to the beta or whatever. But it almost seems like the list was a little bit old as well, because I saw some people on the list where I was like, wait, does this guy even stream? I'm not even sure if this guy's even playing WoW or anything like that, or would have any interest in even doing it. It felt like that, maybe they got a 6-month plus old list of just, these are streamers with numbers above X, and then we'll put them into the beta. But at least that's how it seemed from my point of view.
Yeah, I don't really have that point of view. I don't know if it's old or not. I mean, people have applied for the beta for a bit, and I mean, as somebody who would be handing out beta invites, you kind of only get to look for the popular people, I guess. Right? It's like, am I really going to go and find Snowme's main on fucking white main or something, and enable that account?
There was some popular streamers I thought for sure Tetsu would get an invite, but
he did later. No, he didn't.
Tetsu didn't.
Somebody told me. Oh, Tetsu told me he got. Somebody told me he got an invite later, because he came into my stream and said he didn't get an invite and nobody in progress got an invite, and I was like, that's really weird, because I would give Tetsu an invite instantly.
Yeah,
I would actually. I think Tetsu's one of the people who should be invited, even because his audience is actually pretty large.
Yeah. He's got good stream numbers. I was really shocked, because for me, I'm okay, a 100, 150 viewer streamer, it's okay, maybe I'm on the bottom rungs of getting a invite, but a Tetsu who gets 3,000 plus viewers sometimes. I was and a main classic WoW. Why are you not wanting this guy in your beta? I was surprised.
But that's the thing is League of Legends has this thing, and I always tie it back to this because I think there's a lot of parallels between Blizzard and Riot Games, because they take cues off each other. The League Partner Program is something that they came up with, where they give back to the creators who have given to their game, and even small creators. So they hold tournaments with just these creators. They try to give them support, whether it's people ask them how to run their stream or whatever. It's a thing where it's they are rewarding brand loyalty, right? Which is something that sponsors do not do. Sponsors do not reward brand loyalty. They reward people who, have large audiences and can give them traction, right? So it's basically like if I tap you on the shoulder and go, hey, Snow Me, so I'm a really big company and you're a really small streamer. You're going to help me.
That doesn't use Logitech products, guys.
Yeah, but it's really strange that somebody would tap you and go, we're a big company, we're going to help you out kind of thing, right? Companies go to people and go, that person's going to help me, right? It's the same thing with like when you try to get a job, right? They want to know what you can do for them instead of them giving you a handout. A job is not a handout, right? You're there to help the company, and that's the best way to get a job is to show them that you're going to help them in some way, shape, or form or be valuable to them. They want you, not you want the job. That's how you get a job. So with these types of things, I feel like obviously it's good for them to do it this way. That they should be looking at the people who are going to help them. So, but Tetsu, I definitely think would help them. So it's really strange.
Yeah, it's really. That's why I was thinking, like, is this list from like 6 months ago? Because maybe Tetsu's numbers weren't as big like 6 months ago, or like that's the thing that weirded me out with that. But like, I totally understand Blizzard's thing. I just hope that they increase the numbers, because it seems like from the beta streams I've been watching, the numbers of the people actually even in the beta has been dropping a lot. There's a lot of people that played it for one day and haven't really touched it since, and it's like
because it takes a long time to level. People were like, oh, I'm getting boosted all the time. I forgot what it's like to actually level 1 to 60, and like, yeah, it actually takes a long time to level. Like Joker is like what, level 63 right now, 64. Mytaz is like 64, and these guys are playing ever since it released and like barely sleeping. It's pretty hard to get all the way up to 70. Like people thought it was going to be fast and like all the content's there. Leveling is still a large portion of the game. So that's the thing that I think people kind of underestimated. And a lot of people don't really like leveling because once they get up there isn't really people to level with. So you play with your friends and that type of thing. But yeah, there's already been some like some drama on the beta server, which I found really funny.
Oh, wait. What drama? I'm not.
Okay.
Drama.
So there is a person in Rain that was ganking a other well-known person. And that person found the member on Rain in Discord and messaged him and basically told him, hey man, would be a shame if you lost your beta. And he's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, I don't know, man. People talk and they said you're doing sketchy things. Just be careful out there, man. Looking out for you.
But yeah, on this,
so he doesn't know the person he was talking to is a fucking works at Blizzard.
Oh, really?
Would be a shame to lose your beta.
Oh God. But I was more sad about missing out on the beta at first, but then this ties into the next topic, is that the more I learned about the beta, the more I feel like it's not ready, or it's like a super early beta, because man, there's a lot of things broken in the beta, like a lot of things that aren't working. Like people in the chat are mentioning the XP values are not in, like the cap on AoE numbers, and there's God, like the list goes on, and there's like a super long list you can list out of just all the things that are just broken in beta right now.
It's like AoE cap is not working correctly. Your damage does go down slightly, but spell power scales so well with things like Blizzard right now that even when they introduce the AoE cap, Blizzard's still going to be a really good spell to AoE with while leveling. There's like engineering grenades aren't working, they're fizzling. And the other one that I can think of off the top of my head is if you jump and get CC'd while you're jumping, you DC from the game.
Ooh,
so
I didn't hear about that one. That's weird.
Yeah. So if you jump and get like cheap shotted by a rogue, you DC. So yeah.
I mean,
that might be what they thought. That might be what they thought he was doing sketch wise, because when he ganked them and they were moving and jumped, and he cheap shotted them, they DC'd. So might have been that, but yeah, if you get CC'd while jumping, you DC from the game.
Yeah. As well as that, the phasing is kind of like is all over the place. It's really hard to get valid information on beta right now. I was really hoping as like a theory crafting guy to get a lot of confirmations on what is and isn't in beta and things, but the phasing. So I'll show it on the screen. Like there's a lot of weird things. Like for example, the gladiator weapons are on there for 40 marks right now. On the vendor, that there's a lot of weird things where we don't know like what phase is this even like it seems like this is a mix of different phases on the beta. We don't really know what's going on. There's the changes that are on there aren't final. So one of the things I want to talk about is the whole drums thing. It's definitely not final because
I want to address one more thing. Sorry, say Clyde said you're aware they are 64 because it's capped to 64, right? Yeah. No, I'm aware of that because like Joker's been trying to level and he's 63 and a half, and I don't know if he's hit 64 last night, but that's still like slower than what I was saying. Like people were expecting to level, right? And the later levels only take longer and longer. So if you like take classic for example, and how quickly people hit 60, you know, within like a week or something like that, or a few days, 70 is going to take about the same amount of time. And people really didn't think it was going to take the same amount of time. But I believe it does take the same amount of time to go from 1 to 60 as it takes to go from 60 to 70. That, or it's very, very close to the amount. And I know that the amount it takes to go from 1 to 60 does get nerfed, so that it doesn't take as much. But yeah, it's a longer grind than people expected it to be. Even just based off of what you guys are like, what you have right now. So yeah, no, I'm aware that it's capped to 64. It's just the fact that people have taken so long to get to 64 or 63 even is surprising to me. Now, the first two levels I've seen people breeze by in like 1 day, but it only gets harder from there. And I think the questing areas do get a little bit better as you get into Outland a little bit more. Some of the questing areas are better, and as you get access to like flight paths and stuff, it should be okay, especially as people get into Nagrand, which is a great area. Maybe like 65 will go by fast, but we'll see. We have to see ultimately.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it goes back to the whole thing that we don't know like what changes are even final, what's still to come, because from the look of the beta, it's like the rumor was that they just delayed it an extra week already from when it was supposed to launch because it just wasn't ready. And from the looks of these drum changes, right, like these have been a hot topic for the last week, is that they nerfed the original drums, but then they added in a greater drums, but the greater drums just re-put back in what the old drums kind of were. So these changes do nothing really in the end of the day. So people are speculating, okay, these have to be like, they must be halfway in the midst of changing.
Don't they cost more?
Yeah, there's more cost. But again, this isn't going to stop anyone from doing the drum meta if it's still like this. So it's really weird. We don't really know what's final, what's not final, and what changes are still to come. I would assume, looking at the drum changes though, is that this isn't final and there's going to be something that we haven't seen yet, because otherwise nothing changes here.
Otherwise nothing changes, like you said. And I was talking with people about this stuff where, like, you know, if it's a 30-second cooldown and it's 30-second duration, 2-minute cooldown, everybody in your group has to have drums of battle, right? At least 4 people. Yeah. And then people are like, oh, but that 5th person doesn't have to go leatherworking. And I'm like, actually, they still do, for 2 reasons. 1, if somebody in your group dies, you still want to keep the rotation up. And 2, they can instead use a drum of war and give people spell power and AP, right? And so you have 4 drums of battle and 1 drum of war in your group, right? Or they use the drum that gives movement speed to people during a movement speed part of a fight. So there's a 5th drum that you should have in your group for utility or extra damage, which is something that, you know, it means everybody in the raid will have to go leatherworking, like literally every single person. And you'll probably be leatherworking engineering for a lot of classes. Like I know tanks are going to have to go leatherworking engineering after they go jewel crafting and enchanting. So it'll be really fun having to level up enchanting every time I get new rings. And it'll be really fun that I have to level up jewel crafting and get all these new jewels and put them into my gear and then drop jewel crafting. It'll be really fun. It'll be fantastic. It's going to be absolute shit, and I'm going to hate my life. So, yeah, I mean, to be honest, though, maybe it's something that will be good for the game because it'll be something that people have to sink a lot of money into. I don't know. Because right now, there's not a lot of gold sinks in the game, and that's why everybody has so much damn gold. But having to level up enchanting and then like keep doing this for the min-max stuff means we're going to have a lot of gold.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the question is, what do you actually want to see done in the beta? Because with how unfinished the beta is looking at this early stage, people are losing hope of the May /
Drum
June
for all
launch because we don't know when it's gonna be. Yeah, we don't know when it's gonna be ready because there's a lot of work they need to do from the look of things. There's a lot of work that has to be done if they want it ready.
I have faith, but at the same time, it really depends on how many developer resources they're putting this way because, WoW Classic doesn't have that many developer resources because Blizzard's a large company and, they keep having layoffs in different like esports areas and stuff. So that doesn't really affect like this too much, but it's more like the company is downsizing and trying to just make sure everybody's worth their salt and they aren't wasting money anywhere. So their teams are basically as large as they have to be, right? Or as small as they can be. And this is one of those things where it's like, I don't think they have extra resources to throw its way. And they would instead do something like they did with Shadowlands where they would delay it, right? Like Shadowlands was legit like delayed for a month or two, right?
Yeah.
So I think Blizzard would do that. And because they've already done that once with Shadowlands and people have been okay with it and happy that they did it to have a better game on release, I think they would totally do it. So it may get pushed back.
But I mean, to wrap up the drum stuff, what are your thoughts? Do you think they'll? What do you think still to come? Do you think there's still stuff to come? I hope so because currently this is no drum change.
It's literally not a change.
Yeah.
It's literally not a change. It's literally the same thing, but with mini drums on the way up. Like, no, it doesn't do shit. Like, it doesn't mean anything. Like, so the thing that frustrates me about drums in general is just the fact that everyone's locked into leatherworking. Okay, right now in speedrunning, everybody is locked into engineering. Yes, but engineering is fucking fun. Yeah. Like grenades, using sappers, all that shit. And it's a PvP profession too, so it's not just used in PvE, and you can actually use it in like, people are going to go engineering if they want to like, get a songflower easily, right? And like rocket helm people, or even like be a purge asshole. Like people will spec in engineering because it's fun, has a PvP element to it, and it's required in PvE. So yes, maybe it's a dominant profession, absolutely, but it's fun and it has a lot of creative things you can do and a lot of things that you can like kind of do to like boost your damage in raids and also kind of find clever ways to which to use it. Here, it's literally press drum. 30 seconds later, you press drum. You 30 seconds later, you 30 seconds after him. And then back to me. Me press drum. Me press drum good. And that's all it is. It's just a drum rotation. It's not fun. It's not going to give anybody any skill expression. And that's the thing is it's just boring. It's boring. It's boring as fuck. And it's just tedious and it's just busy work. And it's just another thing to add that is not going to allow players to feel like it's just busy work. That's the thing. It's not going to feel like you're creative or you've done something meaningful, right? That's the thing with drums. And I hate that.
Well, I mean, the thing about game design is like people always say like, oh, but it adds another element of skill, expression or things like that. But at the end of the day, you also have to think of like the fun element because it would be harder for you to raid right now if the screen just randomly blacked out every 5 seconds. But would that be more fun for you? Probably not. No. I don't think that would add to the game. So it's like things can make the game more challenging and such, but they don't. You don't necessarily want things that make the game unfun at the same time.
Yeah, and like in League of Legends, it's champion design where it can be really fun for somebody to play the champion, but not really fun to play against it, right? So it's like one out of 9 people are having fun with this. It's like how many people are having fun with drums? Not many. And
you just wait. You just wait, Zirene. That 0-9 Yasuo is gonna hit his 10 death power spike, and then he'll catch up.
Yeah, but before that point, all of us were having fun, except his teammates. So the thing is with the drum changes or what they're doing here is the 2 changes people are hoping for are either one that you don't require leatherworking to use them. And then everybody can just get drums and have another profession that they don't have to lock themselves into. And it can be enchanting or jewel crafting or whatever. And you don't have like professionals because people are just going to have professionals like now at this point that can do things and like gather and all that shit. It's basically requiring you to have more than one character that can gather. to kind of feed yourself gold. Or even just like, enchant other people's shit. And when sorry, I guess the change is either you want them to not require leatherworking, or the other change is you want it to have, like, people were talking about like a tinnitus thing where people can't use drums for 2 minutes in the group when they've been affected by drums, kind of like being satiated, right?
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I hope we see those changes go in, because I hope this is just that they just haven't got the time to put it in yet, and then we'll see, since beta's super early.
This is a joke. This is a joke. Like, if Blizzard only does this, it will be a fucking meme of some changes. Literally is the illusion of changes.
But
that
I
is
think
all this is.
The community would lose your mind if this was the this was the big change.
It's a joke. Like, this would harm my faith in Blizzard to handle the game when they had just earned it, right? They had just earned it and been like, oh, we're listening to you guys. Classic was no changes, but now we're saying some changes. And I'm like, is this what fucking some changes is? Like, it's a fucking joke. It's a joke, dude. Like, this is a joke, and a bad one at that. Holy moly, dude. It is bad. It is literally just you added greater to the beginning of drums, and then you just made the other drums worse. And that's it. Like, it is mind-boggling. And if this is what it is, I would be shocked. Somebody just posted something 6 minutes ago with leatherworking. What is this?
Oh, okay. Wait, let's see.
6 minutes ago, blue post.
Confirmed, leatherworking drums have been a hot topic since we first started working on Burning Crusade, since they would make leatherworking feel mandatory. In the first few patches of original Burning Crusade, the drums had a cast time and smaller radius, which limited their effective use. Leatherworking was an unattractive profession at the time, so the drums were improved in patch 2.3. That led to the fond memories we all have of drum rotations as one of the added layers of teamwork in later Burning Crusade encounters.
Oh, no!
Right now in the Burning Crusade beta, all leatherworking drums now have an uncommon and rare, i.e. greater version. Our current thinking is that the greater versions will be acquired via recipe drops from Zal Aman. While it's true that we're generally planning to implement items and spells and maps and everything else in the patch 2.4.3 state, this one stood out as something we should make an exception for. By default, we don't want to change the behavior of items from patch to patch, so we think the right thing to do is introduce the graded drums as a new item so that the behavior of the original item doesn't have to change.
Wow. Okay, so for those who don't know, what this means is you're going to have an 8-yard range drum until phase 4. Because Zolaman is the phase 4 content. I believe the first phase is Kara, Groll, and Magtheridon. Second phase is Tempest Keep, Serpent Shrine Cavern. Third phase is Hyjal and Black Temple. Fourth phase is Zolaman. And fifth phase is Sunwell. So this means that you, up until after Black Temple, will only have an 8-yard range drum. That's the change they're doing. Melee stacking is on the menu, boys.
I don't know what to say about this. What does this change? Why? I'm just speechless. I don't even know what to say about this.
This is to preserve this is to preserve the experience of the game, right? This is to preserve the experience of the game for the beginning of it. Because back in the day, people thought like drums sucked, and then they didn't go them until they got buffed in like they're saying 2.3. This, because they're releasing it in the final stage, the final version of the game, they're just saying we're going to preserve the experience of up to Black Temple the way it was, where people weren't opting into drums. But I think this is a little bit
underestimating the sweatiness.
Yeah, I was going to say I think this is a little bit optimistic, a little too optimistic that they think this is going to dissuade people from going drums, because drums work the way they do and give you a damage bonus. People will still go them. It just means that your healer's probably going to have to get within 8 yards of the fucking group that they're going to buff, you know? So you will probably have dedicated melee and dedicated ranged groups.
Oh, I'm not looking forward to this.
All right, KVax, how much do I owe you? I'm going to get my checkbook out for this mainly stacking composition like KVax.
Jesus. I I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, it's gonna be weird. This actually, like, this makes me want to change my comp a little bit, because you know how like my composition has 4 melees in a group and then like a hunter. This probably means that the 4 melees are going to be the ones using drums, and the hunter will be the one using maybe like the speed drum or something for in between pulls, or they'll use a drum of restoration, or they'll use like a drum of battle for the AP before the pull. They'll be like using drums at the very beginning, right?
Yeah.
So they'll like walk up, and as they're pulling with misdirect, they'll probably drums their group for something, right? So that's kind of what I think it is. Might bring 25 leather workers still. Otherwise, you're just having the 4 people in your group who are going to be in melee be the ones using drums. So yeah, I would actually see this composition actually functions with drums almost perfectly already. In the current state, right?
Man,
so you have 2 range groups, and then you have 3 melee groups. So yeah.
It feels, man, this just feels so disconnected from the reality of what will actually happen. It's like it's a nice sentiment, but this isn't gonna work. I don't feel this is gonna work.
And A for effort. All right,
yeah.
No. But the thing is all this. So what this is genuinely going to do for the sweaty people and the speedrunners is this is going to make people still go for drums. It just means that you have to now dedicate at least 4 melee or 4 ranged in your group. So you will have dedicated melee and ranged groups. Having a mixed melee ranged group is just not going to be a thing. It's going to be too hard for them to function. You have to walk up before you use your drums kind of thing. So you're not going to have like a 3-2 melee range split. You're going to have 4 melee or 4 ranged in each group. That's what I see this doing. All this does is this locks groups down a little bit more into certain types of damage or certain types of or just range distribution. That's all this does in my mind.
Oh, and there's going to be a lot more raging when people don't keep in range and things like that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Exactly. Someone in chat says everyone's just going to be running around with range 8 now because that's just going to be the requirement.
8 is so small.
Oh my god.
8 is so small. You know what I would actually do here is I'd probably just mark the people in my group. So it's literally going to be Cthulhu positioning, but you're just like, all right, the group 5 is star. Group 4, you guys, if you want drums, you group around orange. You group around circle. You guys are going to be triangle. Group 3, group 2 is going to be, moon. It's like, yeah, I'll use 5 marks on my groups to show like where they need to stand during an encounter. And if I have to use more than 3 marks in an encounter, oh no, people will lose their marks now. Well,
that sucks. Yeah. Man. Well,
are they going to make them have a cast time? Are they going to have cast time?
Man, remember earlier when we were saying how some things make the game more challenging but less fun? This seems like an example of that in action. More challenging but less fun.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, it's more challenging, less fun, because we're going to try to squeeze everything we can out of it. What they did is they made the ease of access of people using drums harder. It didn't make it so they aren't going to use them. They didn't nerf them. It's just harder to use them. And people are just going to still do that. So, I think Tetsu's probably pretty happy right now because he said he was...
Tetsu's a drum fan? Yep.
I mean, he was somebody who was a fan of swapping professions and being locked into them and having to like min-max and be rewarded for dropping leatherworking, picking up enchanting, and then doing it over again. So I think he's probably pretty happy about this. It does add like a skill element. It also adds people to, get upset at. So, oh man. Somebody... Madness Box in chat says people probably won't use them if they're more annoying to use. Papega. And no, that just isn't true. Here's how it works is if you're in a top guild and it's annoying to use, you're fucked because you have to still use them. And if you choose not to use them, you're probably getting kicked. So yeah, that's all it is how that there's some people who like, it's like annoying to do like certain things like level up engineering, drop engineering, pick it up again, swap it. And it's like, yeah, you have to do that if you want to be in a top guild. So you have to go leatherworking here and use your drums on a rotation in party chat if you want to be in a top guild. So just because it's annoying does not mean people aren't going to do it.
Yeah, especially since raid rosters are shrinking. Like you are gonna have other raids, but if you want to be in the
Competitively.
speedrun raid team one when they go for that speedrun raid, you know you're the max sweaty.
Yep. All right. So what are the comments? There's already 10 comments on this, right? Like what is the initial knee jerk reaction of the community?
Someone wants tinnitus.
Well, yeah. Well, that sucks. Really doesn't fix things.
Oh god, the community is going to have a field day on this one.
Well, yeah,
Absolutely
because
the wrong take.
it's still mandatory, right?
Yeah.
Like if your goal is to not make it mandatory, this is not the change.
Guess I'm rolling leatherworking. That sucks.
Yeah. It's like so you want drums to be mandatory anyway, and the nonsense you said about them not being mandatory was a lie. This will 100% still have leatherworking be mandatory in top guilds. They just stack for the effect, right? Yeah. No, this actually just helps me more.
You know what?
This helps me more.
This just makes me worried. This just makes me lose a little bit of confidence in Blizzard that they thought this was something that could work.
Yeah. And Madness Box says, I just wish Blizzard gave reasoning for their decisions like ever. They just did, but their reasoning is wrong. They said, we want to make leatherworking not mandatory, and we're going to have it scale, and then later in Sunwell, it'll be mandatory. It's like, because drums sucked, we're going to make them suck at the start. It's like, just because they suck doesn't mean we won't fucking use them. No, they didn't suck. Like that's the thing that I think is out of touch with the original comment. If you go back to K-Vax's thing, was he said that people weren't using leatherworking near the start of TBC at all because they were just annoying to use. People weren't that tryhard back then. The game has changed. And this was my point with like, there is a difference between classic and a difference between vanilla, right? Classic World of Warcraft, people didn't min-max the same way. Or sorry, in vanilla World of Warcraft, people didn't min-max the same way. In classic, it's a different game because an MMORPG is influenced by the people who play it and how they play it. It directly influences you. So it is a different game. It is the same game from Blizzard, but it is played differently. Therefore, it is a different game because it's an MMORPG. So here, to think that this would stop people in this day and age in 2021 is absolutely just, it is head in the dirt. Like you were full on, what is it, emu, ostrich? Like you're full on ostrich right now. Just trying to think that this is going to work. It's not. It's not going to work.
I just don't even know who had this idea. You could ask almost any classic player, and the first thing they would say, "This isn't going to work. This is not going to work." Which speaks to the point is like, guys, get guys like Tetsu, get sweaty players into the beta who with big followings, so they can tell you that this is dumb. This isn't going to work.
Now, if let's just assume, okay, let's just assume that this is good. God, I was about to be like, okay, let's have a scenario where what if what we heard earlier about them being raid wide and this are both true? If those assumptions are both true, what happens? I'm like, well, now you have 4 people in your range stack who have leatherworking and 4 people in your melee stack who have leatherworking. And then you have 4 more in each stack for drums of war and battle. So 16 leatherworkers out of your 25 still, right? Or I guess 8, yeah, times 2, 16. So yeah, you'd have 16 leatherworkers out of your 25 still. So mandatory, still over 50% of your raid has to have it. But
oh, you know, the thing that annoys me sometimes with these Blizzard things is that I feel like a lot of times they do get the change right in the end, but a lot of the times the change comes like 6 months too late, or they figure things out so far down the line where it's like, come on, Blizzard, you could have done this 6 months ago. You could have fixed it right the first time.
It sounds like if they want to emphasize the kind of extra for the set tops.
I don't know. Well,
it's disconnected from the player base. I don't think it's disconnected from the player base. I think it's disconnected from the reality of the game and how it's played now. Like the disconnected from the player base would be like, they aren't listening or anything like that. This is just they got it wrong. Like they don't understand their own game and what makes things good and what makes people take things. That's what I think it is, right? Because it's not the same game as it was back then. Because it's just played by different people, right? Different people play it a different way.
Yeah.
That's frustrating. That's
Yeah.
frustrating.
I don't know what else to add on this. It's just like everyone's just gonna be pissed.
Like that is frustrating. That is a letdown. And as much as that helps me in my melee composition, like function, like it actually looks like I made the composition for these fucking drums, to be honest, like when I look at it. But it just, I'm still not even happy with that. That feels like I'm just going to be locked into it, and it's not really even a change. It's just annoying. See, at this point, just give me the fucking other drums back where it's 40 yards. Just give me the other drums back. You're literally like,
this is your plans.
How about no change? How about no changes, bro? How about no changes? Okay, like this. Just give me the other drums back at that point. Come on.
See, this is the plan. This is the plan. They're just gonna mess things up so much that everyone will stop asking for Classic Plus. They just go, oh, we're gonna go back in time, back to the no changes train.
They were like, yeah, they're like, wow, we said no changes. You guys got mad about that. You want changes? You want some fucking changes? Here's some changes, man. They're gonna be like, stop. Wait. I didn't ask for this. No more changes, please. Put the belt away, Blizzard, please. Oh God.
Oh, we told you we didn't want those changes. We told you,
dude. It's like that meme. It's, you know, that meme where like the dad opens the door and he's got like a belt or something. Yeah, it's that one where the dad pops through the door, except the dad's head is Blizzard. It's like, it's changes time. Oh God, Blizzard, please.
No changes.
No change. Changes time. Oh God. Oh no, man. Holy shit.
Yeah, I don't know what else to say. I guess we'll see what the community reaction is, but we kind of already know what's gonna go happen there.
Yeah, I don't know anyone who's gonna be happy with this, because I think everybody. I think
if everyone's unhappy, no one's unfair. It's not fair to anyone if everyone's just sad.
I like, how? Like, these are the changes that, like, you know, working at Riot Games, people would be like, how could a designer think this was a good choice? It's like, I actually think people internally in Blizzard, and here's the thing, where like working at a video game company, I can tell you guys, when a company does something and like balance or whatever, as like a commentator or in esports, literally everybody in that building would be like, what the fuck is this? What is this change? This is not good for the game at all. And then you have to like go on Slack and like message them and be like, what the fuck is this? I'm pretty sure at Blizzard right now, whoever's in charge of this stuff is probably getting a ton of Slack messages like, hey, let's put a one-on-one on your calendar. I'm going to explain to you like why I don't think this is good. You know, your heart's in the right place type thing. You're probably missing the mark here. A lot of corporate lingo being thrown around, a lot of jargon. Just kind of to say I'm mad, but you know, I don't. Let's talk about this.
I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
Yeah. It's like, I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed, which is absolutely worse. So I expected better of you. And so like Blizzard as an entire company, this is not something where I go like, even the person typing this post, KVax, is probably like, fucking goddamn it, like typing this up like not trying to. He's like, this is the choice they made, and just ship it. So I don't blame like the people. I don't blame Blizzard as a whole. It's a really like blanket thing to do. I think just the person or people or the small team in charge of this is just off the mark. And hopefully they correct. Hopefully they see the feedback and listen. Because this is not the change that people want or the change that's going to work. Right?
Yeah.
So,
well, I guess moving on. We've said what we can on that. It's just disappointing.
But see, that Madness Box has been saying a lot of things where it's just like, I think that where it's like, why, like, who on this team thought this was the change or this was what's going to happen? like they obviously went back and said, your drums sucked back in the day and people didn't really use them, so they did their research, right? But then they went, so this is what we're going to do to them. We're going to make another drum that is available here at this point. And it's like, okay, around the time that drums got buffed. Okay, yeah. Okay, so how is this really going to work? Because even though drums sucked back then, just because people didn't use them didn't mean they sucked. It just meant people didn't realize how good they were. Now, if you go back to original classic World of Warcraft vanilla, you go to vanilla. People didn't world buff, right? People didn't world buff. People stood in fucking Ironforge, and people didn't use sappers. right? People didn't use sappers back then. Did they suck? No, they didn't fucking suck. What the fuck? They're like the best things in the game, right? Just because they sucked back then means that we sucked. Doesn't mean that we were good at your game. We sucked back then. It's us that was the problem. We're better now. See, these things, just even if you change it, it doesn't mean it's any worse, right? It's the same. We sucked. We're better now, and now we're going to use these things that were always good. So, yeah, that's the thing. Is Blizzard? It's not you. It's us. Okay, it's us. We were the problem. we just weren't ready for drums back then. Now we're ready, and if you want to stop us from having these drums, you got to do something else because we realized how good they are. Thank God.
Yeah. Well, while we're on the topic of what changes we want them to make, have you seen the PvP leeway stuff? So I have a few interesting clips here.
Okay. So I have not seen this.
Okay.
I've not seen this, but people have told me. Have you seen clips of torrents hitting through arena like pillars? And I'm here going, this is literally how it was back in the day.
Yeah.
I very, very vividly remember Taurens were able to hit through and be hit through pillars in TBC, especially ones in like Nagrand and Blade's Edge Arena down below those pillars. So those are the two places that I very, very vividly remember that you could, and I think it was even worse for female Taurens, if my memory serves me correctly, is that they actually had a slightly larger than the male ones, which seemed off because I was like, I thought the male ones would have larger, but I very, very vividly remember that. So yeah, let's see what these clips are because I have no idea.
I mean, they're exactly what you just mentioned, but
okay.
I mean, before we play them out, I mean, we must well play them so people know what we're talking about. So this one you're gonna see, Sony here is hitting people. There's two Taurens just hitting each other from opposite sides of the sides of the pillar here. So through the entire pillar.
Wait! I'm hitting him. Actually, wait! Go left and right. Holy shit! I'm hitting you through the pillar.
Dude, I'm hitting you through the pillar.
Jeez.
Yeah. So this is through the pillar, and then
and if he stands still, he can't hit him.
Yeah,
correct?
yeah. So this is leeway.
Yeah.
So this is the leeway mechanic in action. So they have to be going left and right, and then there's the same thing here.
Wait, can I hit you from down here?
Underneath.
I can hit you through the bridge.
Wait, actually? Wait, swing it?
As well as that, I didn't get the clip, but there's one footwear as well. He can get Nova'd underneath as well, because if he jumps at the same time as Nova applies. But the thing is, this was how it was. If leeway is a thing, this is how it was with leeway. So the question is, do they change it? Is this part of some changes if we want a more, I don't know, smooth experience, maybe you could call it, where you take away this? Because I know on private servers they did purposely make these changes so that you couldn't hit people through pillars and such. But if you want the original TBC experience, this is how it was, is that you could hit people through pillars. This is how it was back in the day.
Yeah, this was something that could happen back then. And if I remember correctly, it was only Tauren on Tauren action where this could happen. Like, this wasn't something that like an undead could do. And if a Tauren could hit you, you could hit them. So it was kind of like, I remember they saw it kind of as like a just like a feature of the Tauren class in a sense, where it was like, if you could hit them, they could hit you kind of thing. And so it's not like an advantage for the Tauren or a disadvantage for them. I mean, I guess it can be a disadvantage for them because you have an easier way of hitting them, but they have a longer range for hitting you. So it was kind of like a back and forth where eventually they were just like, it seems fair because the Tauren just has access to people and people have access to them from a slightly like different range. So it's not something where like a Tauren can hit you and you can't hit them back. Every time they can hit you, you'll be able to hit them, right?
Yeah.
Unless they do something where they just brush up against the pillar and you didn't like cue an attack or something. So, yeah.
But yeah,
that's how it was, and that's, if I remember correctly, the reasoning behind why they didn't change it back then or fix it. And there was something back in the day about this.
Yeah,
I don't think it's egregious. I think it's just part of kind of how things are.
But would you want it changed at all, or do you think it's not a big deal?
I think that I think that they should just change it because I think more people are going to be upset with it if you change it or if you don't change it, then if you change it. I think if people change it, they're just gonna be like, no, everything's fair. I think there's gonna be very few people who are gonna go like, well, I really liked it that I could hit another Tauren through a pillar, or I really liked it that I could be sitting and people would be able to poke my druid like 2 steps like earlier than normal while I'm drinking, like that type of thing. So I don't think it's that big of a deal, and regardless of which way they take it, I'm fine with it either way. I really don't care. It's kind of a feature that I was confused why it existed in the first place, but it made sense for what it was, and if they change it, that makes sense too. So I think either in the name of fairness, I can see it, or in the name of it being a feature and always being there, I can see it. So for me, it's kind of 6 1/2 dozen. It's exactly the same for me.
Yeah. I honestly don't think it's that big of a deal. It's kind of like a whatever. Because I mean, I think people freaked out at first because they were like, oh no, this is not the classic I remember. But I think a lot of people just don't remember. No, this is the classic. This is the classic how it was if you have leeway and such.
There's a lot of people. I didn't know that these people had beta. I'm like, why is Keandre in beta? Why is fucking Reverie in beta? Like, I'm like, damn, okay, shit. Like,
yeah, it's the whole streamer crew, man.
I was like, damn.
Come on, Blizzard, snow me beta, please.
Yeah, I was like, holy shit.
But yeah, so I don't think there's a big deal overall, but we'll see if they do any changes, because it's so early. Like we were saying, it's so early in beta right now. At least what we have available in beta, everything is super early. It seems very early beta access right now. But yeah. So I think that's most of the beta stuff. Obviously, more stuff will come out, guys, as we go along. A lot of people are testing things and seeing what's going to happen. As well as that, because right now we're limited to 64, which limits some of the testing as well, right? Like you can't test a lot of the heroic dungeon stuff and all of that, because
can't even test all the dungeons.
yeah, because we're 64. So it's we'll see. We'll hopefully
hard to test specs because you don't have all the talent points, right? Can't do like a mix. So
yeah. So we will see, but while we're topic of people getting enraged, have you seen the mount, Zirene?
No, I have not.
The TBC store mount. So have you heard about this?
I've heard about it.
Okay,
but I have not seen it.
Yeah, this is the Warp Stalker mount. For people that have not seen it, this is data mined, and there are taglines looking like that this may be part of. People are speculating, because this is just from the data mined information. People are speculating that this may be if you get a 6-month subscription. This comes in like a bundle with collector's edition or premium edition TBC Classic, and then you get this mount as well for 6 months of game time. And it's just, Blizzard has done stuff like this in the past with retail. The outrage right now is because obviously this wasn't a thing in TBC. Now, initially for me, when I heard like, oh, they're gonna put a cash shop mount for free, I was kind of annoyed. But that's because I thought it was like a flying mount. I thought, I'm like, it's a ground mount out of something that you make fucking burgers out of. That's all I know Warp Stalkers for, is they give me the warp burger. That's all I care about. This is you're riding something that hasn't been turned into a burger. That's all it is right now. That's how, like, is it gonna fly? Absolutely not. Yeah. So so personally, I don't care. Yeah. Because it's not a flying mount. If it was a flying mount, I'd be saying like, okay, no, we shouldn't be giving people free flying mounts. That's not cool.
So this offers you no in-game advantage for money. Yeah. This is purely cosmetic, and it's not going to give you something that you wouldn't have already had access to easily, right? Because if it were a flying mount, like you're saying, then yeah, that sucks because people can pay to win in a sense. Yeah. Here, it's like this is not something that's going to be that useful in the game. Everybody's going to be on flying mounts and Outland. So yeah, this is purely cosmetic for when you're on the ground for some reason.
I feel like a lot of the outrage for this one is again goes back to something we'll discuss in a little bit with the whole Madseason video. Is people who want like this, they are doing this. They're more angry because it's against the spirit of Classic. There was no cash up back then, and this goes back to, one of the things that people are talking about, like the whole slippery slope of cash shop items being put in the game. But let's be real, guys.
Fucking fallacy. Like I care very fucking little for slippery slope. That's like saying because I smoked the joint, I'm gonna now shoot up some goddamn heroin. Like, come on. It slippery slope is a fallacy, even though it might be like true to some extent, and it's the same thing as like I guess it's the mental God, it's a psychological phenomenon of somebody comes to your door, and this actually is something that Jehovah's Witnesses would do all the time for back like when I was growing up. They would knock on the door and ask for a glass of water, and if they could come in, and if you said yes, then it's way more likely that you're like likely to say yes to something else in the future. It's the same thing with like if somebody asks if they can put something up on your property and you say yes, you're more likely to say yes to things in the future. So once you've said yes to something, you're more likely to agree in the future to other things because you've already started. So yeah, slippery slope does exist to some degree, but it is still a fallacy because people make it feel like it's the end all be all. Even though it increases the chances of something, doesn't mean that it's going to happen, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the big thing here is that, like, guys, it's a land mount. If it was a flying mount, I'd be upset, and I'm someone that's fine with the boost overall. We'll talk about it later.
Yeah,
but if it was a flying mount, I'd be pissed. But
if you want to pay for some dead content, then be my guest. That's all it is. So it didn't exist back then. Okay, whatever. Like, I really don't care. Like. I don't know. I'm indifferent.
We'll get into this in a second because we're gonna finish up, I guess, with the Madseason video talking points and such.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that people always they keep saying that it's gonna ruin the classic experience, and then this is what caused classic become retail. But guys, 90% of you guys aren't even playing past Wrath anyway. Like, you're not going to get to retail if you're not playing past Wrath. Like, what are you talking about? You're never gonna get all those changes past Wrath if you don't play. So is it really going to degrade your experience if you don't play past Wrath?
Yeah, and it can't happen fast enough for you, They only have so much time to make it happen.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, this is a good jumping point to the Madseason video. So, I did, both me and Zirene watched it. I watched the full thing. I know Zirene watched at least, like, the first half, but I have all the...
Yeah, I watched half of it, and then, like, not to, like, I guess kind of shrug off his arguments or anything like that. I felt like it did get a little bit repetitive. And I was waiting for some type of payout, like a big like revelation to us where it's like he was showing us all these bits and pieces of things and then and this is why, and it like all comes together. And it really didn't feel like that was happening. And when I skipped forward to the end, it really didn't seem to happen. So I was like, okay.
Yeah. So
I might have missed some things there in like 20 minutes of the video near the second half, but normally you want to front load things and then have a conclusion. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, either way, I got the full. I wrote down all his points pretty much. I don't think I missed any. At least all his main points. So I thought we'd just go one by one, going through the points. So
wait. Before we do that really quickly, somebody in the chat said, talk to me when they're selling WoW tokens in Phase 4 TBC. And somebody said the slippery slope changes are being implemented earlier and earlier, though. They already have WoW tokens in fucking China, right? Like, they've already done this. Like, it's already happened, like, underneath you guys' noses. And the thing is those types of things, I don't have a problem with the WoW token, and we've talked about this earlier, is it just gives people access to something that they're already doing. People are already buying gold in like large amounts all the time. It just gives people a way to do it that's legal. So it's like legalizing marijuana, man. It's like legalizing gold selling. That's all it is. That's really all it is.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of those arguments or a lot of the sentiment is just that it feels bad, but like just because it feels bad doesn't mean like it's going to destroy the game or anything along those lines. Like it's just something that happens behind the game, and a lot of people want the perfect solution, but they don't know what the perfect solution is, and I'm not even sure if there is a perfect solution. So people are like, well, don't give us, like, Madness Box in the chat is saying that that's a band-aid, it's not the solution. Well, what is the solution then? Because if they solve it, then Blizzard are geniuses because they've solved the biggest problem in MMOs to date. And as we have seen, Blizzard has given us the drum changes. So are you really going to hold your breath for the same guys who brought you these amazing latest drum changes to find this perfect solution?
And somebody said they'll never find a solution to gold selling, though. The sellers will always find a new way of selling. Yeah, and that's why the WoW token is good, is because it means that people who aren't buying illegal gold are no longer at a disadvantage compared to the people who do buy it, right? Because if Blizzard can't find a way to track that, and like you said, they will always exist, then you should offer it legally so that the people aren't forced to go, well, fuck, it's Naxx and I don't have enough money for consumes. It's just been bleeding me out. I'm going to have to buy gold for the first time, right? Like that's what ends up happening to people because they see all their friends buying gold, right? It just makes it easier, more accessible, and you don't get banned for something that, like, sure, maybe it makes it so that in real life, you're rewarded for having money in a video game, which some people think is morally incorrect. But there was a guy, I talked about this earlier, where a guy came by my Twitch chat when I was having a debate, and he said, controversial take, if I'm rich in real life, I should be rich in game. And I was like, well, people think like video games, you should be even footing and an escape from reality, but nobody's like said that's a hard and fast rule. Everybody just thinks it is. And I was like, shit, because you can go like, no, video games should be even and we should all be on even playing field. That's the point of video games. It's like, who said that was the point of video games? Like, nobody's ever said that if you are poor, you should be on equal footing now, or that you're rich, you should be on equal footing. And I was like, that is true. That is true that nobody has said that. And with the introduction of something where you can pay to win or pay to get an advantage, then the game is saying, yes, because you are rich in real life, you deserve to be rich in game. Yeah. So as soon as a company does that, they stray away from something that was an unspoken kind of rule or what people thought should be the thing. And so it's not written down anywhere. It's not anything in like the Bible of gaming, but it's just something that people assumed was true. But I will tell you, like, even playing World of Warcraft requires you to have money. And people who are rich already have an advantage if they want to play World of Warcraft because they can just get multiple accounts, pay for them, have summoners, have people boost them, right? Buy gold. There's already an advantage that exists for being rich in real life in video games. Multiple accounts, all that shit. It just, people will always find a way to exploit that and exploit their wealth. So.
I mean, someone in chat is saying we don't want a perfect solution that doesn't exist. We just want a good solution. Well, the problem is like, what is the good solution then? Because like, I'm not even sure there is like this really good solution that people are wanting. I don't know, like, like the whole problem with like adding in a boost to help catch up people and such. It's like we talked about this last episode where it's the ultimate problem in MMOs is the catch-up mechanics. How do you get the perfect catch-up mechanic? And I haven't seen anyone do a good solution that has worked really well.
So there is never a solution that everyone is happy with. You just have to pick the solution that helps the most people in the longest run. That's all. Right? What is healthy for the game long run and what's going to hurt the least amount of people? That's probably your go-to solution. And sometimes those aren't the same one. Sometimes you have a solution that hurts the least amount of people, but doesn't last the longest. And then you have a debate between, is this good for the longevity of the game, or is this good for like the population of the game, right? Or the people who get harmed. So yeah, it's difficult. This is why there's people who literally their entire job is to be decision makers on whether or not things get shipped and being project managers. So yeah, it's not an easy thing at all to make these calls. Because you're not going to make everyone happy, no matter what you do. There's nothing where they're going to go, this is it, this is the right change. Because I tell you, if they put tinnitus in the game, people are going to be like, this is not my game, this is not what happened. You know, that type of thing. There's going to be people who wanted drums the entire time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot of just emotional response as well for people that they're like, I came back to Classic for Classic. I don't want anything from retail. Get this out of here. I don't care if it helps like keep the game a little bit more alive or whatever. I don't care what happens. Give me my version of Classic or nothing. And it's like, well, Blizzard is a company. They got to cater to more than just you. And it goes back to that slippery slope thing that you were talking about, where it's like, just because one thing's happening doesn't mean it goes the full way. So for example, there are grades to like what degrades the game and what degrades that Classic feel. So for me, to go back to my EverQuest experience, where there were tokens and things that they put into the game, experience boosts and such that you could buy. When they took it too far, usually it's pretty obvious when they take things too far. One example of taking it too far was they added a mount that gave you like an attack buff. And the only way to get that attack buff was this $50 pay to win mount. And so all the top guilds bought this $50 mount because they needed to get that buff to get that advantage over everyone else. That's when I felt it went too far, because then you're paying for the stupid mount that you don't even want because you need it to be competitive. For me, that's where it went too far. But there's grades below that where it's like, yeah, it does help if you have money, but it's not the end of the world. It doesn't really affect me that much. It might feel a little bit bad, but it's not that bad if it means my friend Bob can catch up with the game. So I don't know. It's one of those hard things, man.
It's very, very difficult. And like people, I think ultimately, like you said, people are scared that they're like, this is the classic that I played. This is going to kill the game. I think people don't really realize what killed the game, what killed World of Warcraft overall. I have my own theories about this. I may not be completely correct about it, but people, even like the subscriptions and shit like that, throughout Burning Crusade were always going up and then like leveled off in Wrath. But in my opinion, the thing that killed World of Warcraft was twofold. One, it was the ease at which you could do content with other people via like Raid Finder and stuff like that. You didn't have the same connection to guildies, which keeps you in the game, having the same connection with friends that keep you in the game. Like right now, I have 40 people that depend on me and they keep me in the game and stop me from quitting no matter how much I want to. In fact, it's more than 40 because I play in multiple raids. So I have a large like friend circle and it's very hard to quit. So that keeps me in the game. And the other thing that keeps me in the game, or kept me in the game back then, was my familiarity with content from Warcraft 3. So classic WoW, the original, there's very little in there that had to do with Warcraft 3. And it was kind of the foray into, oh, that's cool. That's a Tauren. That thing does War Stomp like the Chieftain. And that was like how people like really started getting into it, was like, this is Warcraft 3, the Night Elves. Oh my God. That type of thing. Then when you hit TBC, you literally fight every ending boss, aside from Karazhan, which is Medivh's home, which is in Warcraft 3, in terms of Medivh. You fight somebody recognizable. You fight Lady Vaj, Kael'thas, Archimonde, Illidan, Kil'jaeden. You literally fight different people that were really important in Warcraft 3. And then in Frozen Throne, or I guess in Wrath of the Lich King, Ulduar is a great instance to start it out. The middle half really sucks, and that's where you saw kind of everybody kind of quit the game, / there was more people quitting at same rate, or same people quitting it as they were joining. And then people were like, it's Arthas. It's about fucking Arthas, because Illidan and Arthas was kind of the big thing in Warcraft 3, the two main like antagonists from their side of the story. And when people killed Arthas, they were like, that's it. Warcraft is done. Warcraft 3 through all the way through, it's done. We did it. And so after that, there's literally like no recognizable content after that. You're like, who the fuck is Deathwing? And you only have a connection to Deathwing if you played the original. And even then, it's not something that connects you to Warcraft 3. So in my mind, the two things that killed WoW was the lack of lore or importance in lore, where people connected to it through Warcraft 3, which was where people really started to get a hook on that type of thing. And like my friend who's never even played Warcraft, World of Warcraft, is like excited about TBC because of the things that are recognizable for him from Warcraft 3. So for me, it's that plus the element of having it be less and less community focused and more of like a single player experience where you can like get people instantly in groups and etc. So that's for me.
Yeah. I mean, I want to be fair as well to like to the anti-boosting side. So that's why I want to address Madseason's video and points, because he is, I think he's the spokesperson of the anti-boost community right now as far as things go. So to be fair, he does say at the start of his video, so I do have this notes that you guys can't see, but we're going to go through point by point. So he does say, to be fair, that it does bring people into the game. So that is the pro of the boost. That's the entire reason for the boost. So like personally, when me and Zirene talk about why the boost or the token or things like that might be good for the game, we're not just talking it for us, because we play a lot of WoW regardless. These things don't really, like, it doesn't change the game for us. Like for me, if they didn't put the boost into the game or whatever, it doesn't really disadvantage me. I just say, hey, stream, next 2 weeks, leveling stream. My new druid, since I don't have a boost now, I'm just going to level for the next 2 weeks. I'm not talking about it from the perspective of me. I'm more trying to think like what makes the game better for everyone, or for the general public, for not just me included. So Madseason does bring the point that it does bring people into the game for his positive sides. But from that point onwards, there's a lot of just... he gets into all the negatives of boosting. So the first negative he says is that the boost is available to everyone, not just new people. So he's saying that if this boost was being put in place to fix this issue that it's hard to get new players into a late stage MMO, then why is the boost available to everyone, not just new players? Should it be limited to just the new players that come into the game? And personally, I'm okay with that. If they wanted to make that change, I'd be okay with that to a level. If they said, okay, you've got a level 50 or you've got a level 60 character that's in full Naxx gear, you don't need the boost. Well, you're not getting the boost. We're only going to put this limited to like new accounts or whatever it is, even though people will bypass that, by the way, guys. I'm okay if they want to put some limitations on the boost. What are your thoughts?
It's just another one of those things where when I heard the argument of he's like, well, then you're admitting that it is an advantage to get a boost, right? And I'm like, well, when people said, oh, it's unfair if you don't offer it to everyone because it's like, oh yeah, it gives an advantage. I'm like, yes, it is ignorant to say that it is not an advantage to have to boost or to have to level from 1 to 58. It's ignorant to say that it's not an advantage. So it's like, oh, but why are you giving these people an advantage? It's because it's the same thing as like what people do with I'm going to use like probably a really controversial one is affirmative action, where you're trying to counter something that exists at a deficit, right? Where it's like there aren't enough representation of minorities in college, right? That type of thing. And it's like, okay, well, here you're giving people a boost who didn't play Classic, who aren't as fortunate as you are, to actually get them up to speed a little bit, right? So you're attacking a problem at the baseline where you're going, it's not that, this higher level thing is they aren't represented here. It's that they're less fortunate and that they haven't played this game before. So we're trying to even that playing field by having a boost. Now, the fact that it's offered to everybody is just because in my mind, I'm going, it doesn't fucking matter if it's offered to everybody or not. If it's only offered to new players, I'm just going to make another fucking account and pay for it and then get the boost. So it's the same logic that I had before where I'm like, people are going to buy gold anyway, just offer it legally. People are going to buy the boost anyway, just make it easily accessible because people are just going to fucking do it. All right. I would just, I mean, sure, it's more money in Blizzard's pockets, but I would just make another account if I was like, oh, I'm going to make a druid or something and get like a professional. I just make another account. I already have 5, right? It's like, I would just make another. It's so trivial to me that you would try to block it, and it seems futile. Right. Yeah. It seems like it's one of those things where
it's like you can't block it.
I'm like, you can't block it. You might as well accept it at that point. So if you're going to offer it to people, you have to offer it to everyone, or else people are just going to get around it anyway. We're not stupid. If people want something, they're going to get it. It's just like these drum changes. Oh yeah, they're 8 yards. People are still going to do it, right? It doesn't matter. So it's like at that point, I'm just like, just make it 40 yards. It doesn't matter. People are still going to use it, and now you're just making it harder. It's the same thing here. People are still going to use the 58 boost if you offer it, even if it's not offered to everybody. People are still going to do it. So just offer it to everybody. It's like, if people are still going to use drums, just make them 40-yard range, right?
Oh, you actually touched on the next point.
That's my logic.
You actually touched on the next point as well. His next point is that it's unfair to those who leveled to 60 earlier. But like that's kind of the point. Look, guys, the game has to be healthy. It has to survive. You can't just be like, well, I did it back in my day, guys, so you guys have to suffer through the same thing, even though it's a completely different experience now for people who won't have the same, like early stage MMO leveling is completely different from late stage MMO leveling. It's the feel, everything changes. It's not the same.
I actually have a question of like, you know how in the subscriptions where it's like when it's like, okay, here comes like, classic, and then it's like, okay, TBC is still up, and then Wrath of the Lich King levels off. What would TBC have looked like subscription-wise if they had offered a boost to players who had just come in? I imagine it would just be higher, right? Because I think the leveling is just a gatekeeping thing where it's like, if you join and your friends are 60 and going to get 70, you're still slogging through the 1 through 60 content, and you're hoping your friends re-roll a character with you, right? And there's going to be less people doing it. There's going to be less people running like DM, less people running stockades, stuff like that. So I imagine it's to kind of get past that for the first character for people, so that they're more likely to continue playing, and that it's more likely that they would be like wanting to, continue their sub, because now I can go play with a friend who just newly joins. Now, is it unfair to them? No, it's not unfair to the people who already had a 60. Those people have Naxx gear, which helps them leveling. Have you seen, and hopefully this gets changed, have you seen the gear that the boosted characters on the pre-made characters on the data have,
pretty bad.
They have like literally like it's like 5 stam gear. Like they're paper. Like if you like my friend who's playing like a Naxx geared rogue, literally one shots people with like a King's Fall 1700 ambush. They're dead. They are literally just fucking dead. The pre-made characters just flop over. Like if that's the stats that they have, who was it? Some streamer was playing a prop paladin and he pulled 2 mobs and he had to lay on hands himself to kill it. I forgot who it was, but somebody had to lay on hands himself to even do 2 mobs at the same time that were level like 62 or something, or 61. So it like, yeah, there's gonna be a definitely a large advantage for the people who are who leveled up, and that's what you get, right? You get to keep your Face of Death from Naxx, the shield, all the way into Kara, right? I think it's the pre-biz shield compared to everything else. Like I'm keeping my Face of Death, at least from like what I have on my pre-biz sheet. So there's very few items like THC and that are things that I will keep going into Kara, and that's an advantage, right? I don't have to replace that gear; it's still strong. It's going to help me level. And yeah, I think that's the advantage you get is your leveling will be smoother, easier from 60 to 70. But this person gets a smoother experience from 1 to 58 because they didn't have to do it. So,
well,
yeah,
I mean,
MMO.
Yeah, there's 2 core points here as well that that he then goes Madseason then goes into, which are kind of like the basis of the rest of all his arguments, because he keeps referring back to these 2 core points, or for his entire video really, is that point 1 was that Classic was popular originally because of the core design philosophy of all the things that make Classic feel like Classic. That's his belief, is that Classic was popular, and that is why Classic was popular. And I don't think either of us really agree with that. I'm not sure how you feel about it, Zirene, but I feel like we discussed this previously in last episode, is that Classic was popular because it was the first good MMO that wasn't EverQuest. EverQuest is way too hardcore for the general person to play, and WoW took it and gave it to the masses.
So WoW was good because it was a fluid, good MMO that was easy to play, that looked good, felt good to play, and also people had a fucking connection to from a lore standpoint, even just the factions of being the Horde and exploring areas that they had seen in Warcraft 3. I shit you not, having it be called World of Warcraft is fucking incredible for the game because it's built on an IP that people already loved. People would go fucking crazy over World of StarCraft back then, where they would be like, "Oh, the Protoss, the Zerg, oh, that's a Hydralisk." Like people would have gone like crazy over that shit, and then they'd be like, "Oh, what place am I visiting? Oh, this is actually Earth." And then like you visit a different place, and you're like, "Oh, this is like," like you just go insane over those types of things. And it's the same thing with like people asking for the League of Legends MMORPG. They're gonna be like, "That's Demacia, that's Noxia." Like yeah. It's recognizable places that people go, oh shit, this isn't a game that I already played and you have a connection to. So I think that's another thing about Classic that made it popular was all those places that people saw in a game, had a connection to in all the races, and then seeing it in action in an MMORPG was cool. And then TBC was cool because it had all of the villains and like characters that they had played with or against in Warcraft 3.
Yeah, I think there's also an element of rose-tinted glasses when people look back at a lot of old feelings in MMOs as well, because guys, if Classic was popular because the original, like this philosophy of things being hard, things taking effort, the leveling process, if all of this was the reason and the main reason why Classic was popular, there's a lot of MMOs that have tried and failed to recreate those old experiences. A lot have tried, and they've never been able to pick up that steam again, because it's one of those things where there's a lot of people who look back at those experiences and yeah, it's a nice experience, but they don't necessarily actually play the game anymore because of those experiences. The way they experience games has changed. Like you can't go back in time and be like, let's take out all the guide knowledge out of my head, the way I play the game, how I min-max and everything. Like fundamentally people play games differently from back then. And like, I think this is something you touched on last episode as well, is that that lack of knowledge, the lack of experience is really what makes an MMO an MMO, like the interaction. To give an example, back in the day, I was one of the highest level characters on Blackrock server, the maybe the most popular WoW server at the time, because it was the unofficial Australian / NA server. So we had both Australians and NA people on it. And I could get anything I wanted, put it on the auction house. So if I got a green item, I just put it on the auction house for like 10 gold, and people would buy it, even if it was trash, because people didn't know any better. They're like, oh, this item's new. We don't know what this is. It's better than what I'm using. I'm just going to pay 10 gold for it. So anything I got, I put on the auction house, and I was making bank from all these things. But you could never get that experience again. It's never going to happen again, because people aren't naive like that. They're not going to buy a 5 spirit item for 10, 15 gold off the auction house anymore. So yeah, at least that's my thoughts on it, is that you can't go back, and I don't think that's why Classic was popular. I think there's a lot of other reasons why.
Yeah, and we're trying to we're basically looking at his argument and saying that it kind of misses the point and assumes that the reason Classic was popular, or the reason Classic was Classic, or I guess vanilla was vanilla, and what made it that way were certain elements, and that's why we're going to disagree. Is because we disagree on what the elements that made it what it was are. Not that like the boost is bad. It's that the people who think that the boost is bad are missing kind of that element, or what made it that way. Because they're trying to say this is not in the spirit of the game, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So,
and I mean, his second core point is that the introduction of cash shop and other features is what killed retail WoW, or what killed WoW and turned it into retail. And
there are already character transfers that exist right now.
I think the thing is, he doesn't like the ones that are in already as well. So he's been against this from the start. But like, it goes back to the thing where, again, this isn't a really big assumption by Madseason. It's assuming that this is why numbers dropped. This is why sub counts dropped after Wrath of the Lich King and such. This is like, a lot of the video is based off assumptions. Just very leading assumptions a lot of times. And while I can share the sentiment that it might not feel great sometimes for all retail elements to be, like, for things to be added to the game that weren't originally there, I don't necessarily think you can just attribute that change and be like, oh, well, sub numbers dropped after Wrath, so it was because of these things that were put in the game. I don't think you can simplify the MMO problem like that.
Yeah, and like my argument was, the familiarity with the content and why I cared about it, and also the community, right? So those were like the two things for me. And then Death Knights, fuck that. So for me, it's very, very different. And everybody's gonna have their own. Everybody's gonna have their own reasoning as to what made the experience that experience for them, right? Because I quit in the middle of Wrath of the Lich King and then came back for the end and then quit again. And that seems to be like kind of what other people did as well, based on numbers. So it seems like kind of my experience was what the norm is. But for other people, they like kind of played through and like saw these things go up and down, saw things come and go. And they'll have a different experience than I will, right? They'll have a completely different one. And so I'm not quite sure like what kills the game. And it's always going to be multifaceted. There's not a single reason or solution, right? Like Blizzard can't do one thing and it saves the game forever. So
yeah,
and
well, I mean,
might not even hold up today in like this day and age. Maybe TBC comes out and people are like, oh, actually this isn't as good of a game as we thought it was, right? Like, who knows?
Yeah. I mean, it comes down again to this also idea with like the entire time there's this underlying problem in the background is that sub numbers will go down. Regardless of what you do, sub numbers will go down at some point unless you somehow design the absolute most perfect way to keep people coming in. Sub numbers do go down in MMOs. It's like an inevitable thing that just happens as a MMO reaches late stage. So yeah, I don't think either of us really disagree with those or really agree with those assumptions. But to not draw on that too much, I'll cover his other points to be fair. He did say, why is there a fee on level boosting then if it's for everyone? So I don't know how I feel about that. Wait, why is there a fee on the level boost? Do you think there should be a fee? Like
No.
if Blizzard, like I think I'd be okay if it was free. If they want to do a free boosting, I'd be actually okay with that. Like
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I don't think it's a reason to be against the boost, but for me, it's like should it be free? Yeah, I think it should be free.
Yeah, I don't think we actually disagree with Madseason there. We're actually fine, yeah. Like, we're not like
see, here's the thing,
diehard supporters of the boost here.
Here's the thing is that whether I think it's free or not does not mean I am like any more against the boost. It just means I'm against the boost being paid for, right? That's all it means. So that's one of the things that I felt like that was a little superfluous for his point, because I didn't think it actually attacked any of the arguments that we have, because we're just like, yeah, it should be free. He's like, it's kind of like, well, if the boost is so like, et cetera, why do you have to pay for it? And I'm like, well, they shouldn't have to.
Yeah, like I don't think either of us are hard stuck on this. Like, we want the boost this way and only this way. Like, I'm just thinking about the health of the game. I'm okay with some changes.
I'm gonna tell you straight up. Should the boost be to 58? I think it should be to 60. Like, right? It's like, I think the boost should be free and be to 60. I think 58 is like, you still have to go through some of the content in vanilla at that point. You aren't going straight to Outlands and doing that, right? Now, maybe they think that's like good, or that maybe people boosting to 58 will have to spend some time outside the Dark Portal before they go in the Dark Portal with everybody else. So it makes release day less of a clusterfuck with all these new people, and they'll be in different areas like EPL. Who knows? But I'm just sitting here going, it should probably be to 60, because there's 60s that are struggling to kill the mobs in Outland, because the mobs in Outland are 61, 62. And if the 58 goes there, to all shit, you're going to get misses, glancing, all that shit. So I don't know.
Yeah.
You can go to, you can go to Outlands at 58. I'm just saying it's way too fucking hard to kill shit in Outlands at 58. So it's like, it's not an enjoyable experience. So I think it should just be to 60. I think it's kind of trivial to have it go to just 58. So that's me though.
Okay, so I'm gonna skip some points here because it's stuff we've already talked about. Like, he says, in-game advantage for real-life money. We just spent like 20 minutes probably talking about that as well. And
is that wrong though? Is like the whole thing, right?
Like, is it right? Is it wrong? It's we're getting that's very philosophical, I guess. I'm not sure if like sometimes some of these points felt like it was kind of like a side note on the whole boosting thing. It's not really directly related to the boosting. But
essentially, you just want to like, you don't want to have that detract from his argument, so we can just say that's kind of noise for it, right?
Yeah.
And focus on what he's really getting at.
Yeah,
but I don't want to discredit him at all.
Yeah, on his main point. So he also gets into the slippery slope of more cash shop items, and again, that's another point he's bringing up. He brings up the slippery slope and then says it's a fallacy, but then says it's also correct. So I'm not sure about that one. That felt a little bit weird.
That's the so the slippery slope is a logical fallacy, but there's also the fallacy, which is just because something is a logical fallacy does not make it necessarily discredited. So if I use the slippery slope fallacy, just because it's a fallacy doesn't mean that my argument's wrong. So that's the fallacy. So yeah, in that sense, he is right, because from like I talked about earlier, from a psychological standpoint, once you say yes to something, people are more likely to say yes to more requests in the future, right? So it is to some degree true. The degree at which it is true, and that's the whole idea, is the slippery slope as opposed to like just a slope. Because it's a saying that like one thing is going to lead to another, which is going to lead to another, instead of something gradually might change into something else, and maybe they push for something more. It's the slippery slope is the whole idea of it's gonna fall fast, kind of thing.
It's gonna go from like 0 to 60, and then it's always gonna end up at 60. Yeah,
exactly, right. You don't know. The thing is it going to potentially result in more cash shop stuff? Absolutely, it probably will. Like, I don't think that it won't. So I agree with him to some extent, but I just don't think that that's a bad thing, especially in the way that they're doing it right now, right? With the one boost per account thing, with the
cosmetic mount.
Warp Burger, the Warp Burger dude, like I'm just like this thing. Yeah, that's all that's all I can think of when I see those things, is the Warp Burgers, because I thought they were the weirdest item in the game. It's just like I love it, but I don't know why I'm making a burger out of this lizard. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So his next point is that he says boost is a bad solution to tedious time investments, and he doesn't like the idea of paying to skip content. He says that's bad. And personally, when I think about that, I think we're back on the old topic of you can't get the original experience. With someone leveling now is going through this really bad experience if they don't get groups and things like that. Versus like me, I actually have fun. Like I'm not on the. I know Zirene loves the end game. I actually like the leveling process. I enjoy the leveling process at the start of an expansion. Only at the start when I'm there with my friends the very first time. I think that's really fun. But every time after that, zero fun. Zero fun for me after that. So I think the experience changes based on the timeline. You can't just be like, well, I did it back then, and you should get that same experience now, but that experience doesn't exist. That experience is gone.
Like what? Who am I to say like that my friend can't join this game and be part of the fucking cool element of having everybody trying to get inside the dark portal? There's going to be some level fucking 1 human in Elwyn Forest at that time. Like come on. That's the cool part of the leveling experience, is being part of that. Like, I remember when Classic launched and everybody's just lagging fucking Elwyn Forest and shit. Like, I actually, funny story here. My GM of my more casual guild was going through his screenshots the other day, and he had a screenshot from when he first loaded into the game. He took a screenshot, and my level 1 rogue is in that screenshot on the right side. And I did not know this guy beforehand. I joined his guild when I was 60, and I've been with him the whole time. He has a screenshot of my rogue at level 1 at the quest giver when he first loaded into the game. And that was a huge, like, holy shit moment. Like, everybody was really there. And I have no idea all the people that I cross in the world right now that were literally right there in that screenshot that still play today. And that's like a cool aspect of it, is everybody, people you meet along the way while you're leveling. When you're leveling in Outland, you're going to meet all these people who have played the game, people who are new to the game, if you got the boost. And if you were level 1, you're only going to be playing with new people, right? Or you're going to be playing with Drawn Eyes and Blood Elves.
A lot of Drawn Eyes and Blood Elves.
And a lot of them. And those people are probably going to get boosted because they already have money and they're going to go into a dungeon and a mage is going to boost them, right? Like that's legitimately what's going to happen, is the people who roll Drawn Eye for alts or something like that, or to be shamans, are going to get boosted by mages in their guild. Even with AoE cap, it doesn't matter. You think you can't kill Mara with enough mana, infinite mana, enough time, still going to happen. Maybe it'll take a little longer. Well, the experience from 1 to 60 is lower now. So yeah, they will get boosted in 3 days playtime, etc., to get up there. That's the thing that I'm like, I don't think we should gatekeep the experience of going through the Black Portal just because people didn't level in time, or have a character that was that high. I think that the experience of starting the MMORPG together is one of the best parts about it. And I very fondly remember DCing from the server and waiting 6 hours to get back in. So these are things that will always stick with me, is that type of thing. But yeah, on a more serious note for that, I definitely think that I don't want to, like, I want to have everybody, I want to offer everybody the same experience that I'm able to be offered right now with that, because that's the part of the game that I think is really enjoyable. So that's why I think it should be free. That's why I think the level boost should be free, and shouldn't be gate kept there, which, the current one isn't exactly how I want it. But yeah, I'd want everybody to have the opportunity to experience that, and not just be like fucking in Elwyn Forest or killing Hogger while everyone else is, doing Hellfire Ramparts.
Yeah, well, I mean, he does bring up the leveling process in his next few points. I can kind of condense it into one point, which he doesn't want leveling to disappear, and the boost causes dead zones, and he feels like leveling is a big part of the game, and by putting in the boost, they've skipped that whole part of the game that he feels is crucial to the classic experience. But for me, man, that leveling process, like I said, it changed. Like, they're not getting my leveling process where I had fun with loads of people, groups everywhere. All my friends were around the same level and such. Yeah. They're getting like this completely different process, which honestly, I feel kind of sucks for the new player to go through these dead zones. Like, I feel like forcing someone to go through old content that sucks just so that you can say, well, now you've slugged it through, now you get your reward, is like it's kind of a bad way to treat new players. Yeah,
and I'm gonna be honest, like the way the argument that I would have against boosting, like the getting the level 58 boost, the argument that I would have is me, Zirene, the player, and I'm never going to level a character from 1 to 58 ever again unless I'm leveling a paladin on Horde or a shaman on Alliance. I'm never going to do that. If I want to change classes, I'm going to make a new account, get boosted to 58, and go. That's actually what I will just do. I'm not. I would pay $60 to not have to do the 1 to 58. It's going to like it's 2,000 gold or something like that currently to get all the way to 58. So it really is something that I would just be like, you know what? Don't want to do the time investment right now. I'm currently like having a mage boosted in Mara, and I'm like, nah, I'd rather just pay $60 and just get boosted and have a new account. So that's the argument I would see against it. Is it just going to make it so that people who have money will be able to have easy access to alts, which I can see that being an argument, but it's like people are going to get boosted anyway. It just makes it take less time because that's the way the game is now, right? Like if you want your old, fresh, classic experience, then he's going to be against dungeon boosting too with mages, right? So
yeah. I mean, he does bring up points where he'll admit that the problem is fixed with the mages, or the problem exists with mage boosting already. But then he doesn't. There's no solution. You know, he brings up that mage boosting is also bad. Doesn't mean that we should have boosts as well. But but this there has to be some solution there. You can't just be saying like, well, they're both bad, so all bad. There has to be some sort of like, what's the counterpoint then? Like,
but here's the problem. Here's the problem: is there is no solution. Because if you have a solution, you're ruining the game the way it was back then, right? That's the thing. Is like it's hypocritical where you're like, this isn't what the game was like back then. This is wrong. We should change it. But then if you're changing it, it's not the game that you had back then. This is literally the game you had back then. People just play it different, right? That's the thing. Is it the people are what changed? It's not the fucking game. They're using the game in a smarter, more intelligent way, and then that's it. Like if you change the game and you try to stop those players from doing the smarter, more intelligent thing, then you are changing the game at a fundamental level and potentially ruining what made the game the game. But people are just playing it a different way. So yeah, mage boosting didn't exist back then, but we weren't smart enough to do it. Was the whole point, right? That's why that exists. So that I honestly am like they're saying there is no solution because it just you're going. This isn't what I had back then. It's like, it is, but it's just people are using it different. So if you're using the argument of this isn't the game, that's not right because it is the game. If you're using this isn't the experience, then yeah, it's not the experience, but that's the player, not the game, right? Hate the player, not the game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the one argument I do kind of agree with him a little bit is that it does amplify bot issues. It is true it will amplify bot issues if they put this boost in. So that's one point that he does touch on, which is that if you put in the boost, people are just going to boost straight past. No one's going to catch all the bots who are going through and botting their way through the game. But I almost feel like that's a whole nother issue that Blizzard needs to address. And
that's what the 2 months are for. No, I'm just kidding. But I mean, that's a whole different issue. Is like Blizzard just needs better bot detection in general.
Yeah, straight up. They just need to do something else about the bots. It's not. I feel like, yeah, like you said, it's a whole separate issue there with the whole bot problem and such. I don't think it's something that nullifies the benefits of the boost just because it makes the bot issue worse. I think that just means they need to fix the bot issue.
Don't bots just level together anyway right now?
I'm not sure. I thought they get boosted. I thought they boost a lot of bots.
Yeah, I was like, how does a bot get to 60 right now, guys? Because I'm pretty sure they level in the open world as like a fucking group, and there's all these like priests and mages that are just like holy novaing and arcane explosioning together, and they just run a script, like they boost themselves, kind of thing. So, and hunters too. Hunters are the big ones, actually. Hunters, when I see them solo, it's a hunter. When I see them in groups, it's like priests, holy novaing, and mages. That's when like people are boosting like a ton of characters at once. But you ever go to like Feralis? There's like a hunter that you can tell it's a bot because his like pig is like doing something, and then you go to his dead zone and he'll like he doesn't know what to do. He just stands there, kind of thing. And you can just totally mess with those bots or tag mobs and shit like that. And they just like they'll keyboard turn and shit. They're like very clearly bots. So yeah, hunters do that. But this isn't going to stop them. It just takes them a little bit more time in their day. It just takes more hours to get up there.
Yeah. So, I mean, his next point that he comes up with next is that casuals don't stick around, so you shouldn't cater and help casuals at all. Honestly, to me, I see that kind of I don't like that argument because when I think of World of Warcraft, I understand that, look, my friend, like a certain percent of the population are casual. They're not gonna experience the full of everything that World of Warcraft offers. They're not gonna be in the sweaty radius. They're not gonna stick around for the long, super, super long term. But I feel like the casuals add to the vibrancy of the game as well. You can't just have... The game just isn't about just solely the hardcores. The interactions with the casual players included add to the life of the game. It's what like made those old servers, BlackRock and Proudmoore, two of the most populated servers of Classic WoW, because you had so many casuals from both Australia and the US, and just because someone's a casual and they're going to quit doesn't take them out of the game. It just means that, oh, maybe he quits and then another casual comes in and takes his place, and then there's just this never-ending cycle of the casuals in there. I don't think you can just dismiss casuals just because they quit and they don't play the game as much as you do.
Well, like that, here's the thing is, I don't like that argument because I don't think that it's really that valid, and I think it's a little more elitist than I would expect Madseason to be, because this is like the casual player, you're making them a force of nature where you're saying they're going to quit anyway. That doesn't give the casual player, this gives more casual players a chance to fall in love with the game and become more hardcore players, or find the aspects of it that we enjoy, right, in TBC, and fall in love with that. I think this is, and like appealing to the casual player, I don't see that as a problem. As a hardcore player myself, as a super hardcore player myself, competitive and hardcore, like spend a lot of time and at a high level, I don't see this as a problem. And I don't see how this is, because catering to a casual player does not mean you are actively hurting hardcore players. This does not hurt me in any way, shape, or form, right? Appealing to a casual player here does not hurt me in any way, shape, or form. Now, when you introduce something like Raid Finder or look at LFG, that's what hurts the hardcore player, because they have less of a feeling of community, because there's more people who are, using these things, etc. And you don't have to become like a big part of something. So yeah, it makes it so that the hardcore players, that does hurt them in some way, shape, or form. Whereas here, I don't feel like this hurts me at all in any way. And in fact, only stands to potentially have more people convert to being hardcore players.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. He does go on to say that the level boost hastens reaching the end game, and that means people will run out of content quicker if they take the boost. But
okay, so am I going to run out of content going from 60 to 70 right now?
See, that's why I don't understand. It's like you're gonna reach the end game eventually, and it's kind of like it doesn't stick with the previous argument as well, because if you say like the casuals are gonna quit anyway, then what's the hurt in letting them experience the end game content before they quit then? If the boost is for the casuals, like what hurt? Why do we have to gatekeep this end game content from them then if they're not gonna reach it as you say?
So you're saying that they're gonna spend 2 months on the game instead of 1 month on the game. So if we boost them, they'll only stay a month, and they'll stay for 2 months if we don't boost them. That just doesn't make sense to me, where you're going to run out of content eventually, right? Like, if you get through the content quicker, then okay. Like, so what's the solution here? Everybody starts at level 1 again? Like everybody starts at level 1? There's no transfer over of characters or something? What's the fucking solution? I don't think there's really anything that makes me feel like comfortable with that logic, where I can feel like that's the right path. So yeah, I just don't like the idea of the gatekeeping there, even as like a hardcore player. So because the content is the thing that I play over and over and over again and over and over and over and over and over again every time a week, right? 5 times a week for like months at this point. And that's the stuff that I love. If I had to level again normally, I probably wouldn't level another character, and then I would have less access to the content every week that I go through again. So the fact that I have a lot of characters and I have used like mages to be boosted and stuff like that actually helps me as a hardcore player play the game more. and even as like a casual player would help me play the game more.
Well, I mean,
So-
the interesting thing is, even as a hardcore player who, my living is like playing WoW all the time, and I actually don't play with my guildies on white main as much as they would like, because I don't have a second character. So like for me, my second character is on a different server, so I don't play with them when I'm raid logged and things like that. And it comes back down to like the old argument people used to have with the dual spec, where they're like, well, if we can't have dual spec, it's needed to, because people have to go and farm that gold to get the dual to go respec and such. Whereas the reality is people just end up saying, well, I don't want to farm that gold, I'm just going to log off, and they're just not going to play the game. So I feel like if I had boost earlier, actually, I would have just made that second character and played with my friends on white main more, because the alternative was level yet another out, which I didn't want to do on white main. And so it actually just led to me playing WoW less with them than they would have liked. Although, guys, hot tip, if you want to avoid MC splits, just don't have a second character, and then they can't force you to go back to do MC splits.
Oh, no.
Okay, but okay, so his next point is that forcing people through the grind attaches them to the character more, which means they're more likely to stick around if you force them to level from 1 to 60 to 70 and so on. But I feel like this, it almost contradicts the previous point, because you already said that the casuals don't stick around. Then you can't then say that you're going to now force them to do this thing that they're not going to stick around for. It feels like it counters the other point that you made previously.
Okay, so connection to my character does not exist solely within myself to my character. I'm not that type of person. I don't go, this character is special to me because X, Y, and Z from leveling. What makes me connect to my character is the things I do when there's other people around. Did I save a group with distract on my rogue? Do I feel good about that moment? Do I feel good about like kicking something? Do I feel good about like PvPing, right? It's my interactions with other players in an MMORPG that makes me feel connected to a character. That's what it is. And if you don't allow people to boost, they're not going to have that same opportunity in Hellfire Ramparts to be silly, wipe a group, save a group, etc. Right? That's what, for me, connects me to my character, is my usefulness in a group, or my usefulness to other players, right? It is solely based on that. I don't have a connection to it in like a single player way. That's why I don't play a lot of single player games anymore, right? I know some people would be like, they played in like Diablo 2 and this is their character that they really like. They built it this way. It's their Frost Orb Sork, right? And for me, it's not the abilities that I use. It's the way that I interact with other people, and that makes the character mine, right? So the fact that I play 4 characters in raids right now, and soon to be 5, it's just the way that I interact with people and my usefulness and how I like to go about things, right? Like my identity is I'm the person who battle shouts my tank, I demo shout every mob, and I'm still off tank 1, right? And I still take pride in that, because I don't see a lot of other OT1s doing demo shout, battle shout for their group, keeping it up on their main tank so they don't have to do it, and being one of the top sunderers, and being somebody who is keeping aggro on their mob, and being off tank 1, not off tank 2. So it's things like that that's like the way I play my character is something that makes me feel connected to it. So that's kind of the thing for me. I don't feel like if I played my character in a single player game, I'd have more of a connection to it.
Yeah, when I think of like what makes me think of all the fond memories, why do I play WoW, all of those things, I think of all the memories with my friends and the interactions I had with them and all the goofy things we did. And I feel like you can't force someone through this horrible 1 to 60 experience in a dead part of the game and be like, no, form your bond. And then once you go through that trial, you can join the rest of us having fun out here in Outlands. But you have to go through your trial first, and that's going to bond you to the character. For me, I didn't bond with the leveling process because of the leveling process. I bonded it with it because of the experience with my friends. Because I got to do it with my friends and such. I don't care about the actual leveling process. I just like the goofy things that happen when I'm leveling with my friends and interacting with my friends. And I don't feel like forcing people to grind attaches them there. I feel like the boost actually helps them get to that point where you can come goof around with me in Outlands now. So Yeah, I just don't agree there at all.
And somebody just said in a chat, Young Deezy said, I agree. I quit my rogue because I wasn't performing well enough in raids. It just became less and less fun, not feeling like I was actually helping the raid. That's the thing, is like, I play my rogue and I love my rogue because I feel like I found my usefulness in being somebody who can distract mobs, can CC, can still bring a lot of damage to the table in the way that I play it. So it's like that's what makes your character yours, because I could take your character and play it in a completely different way, right? It's like there's nothing there. Like, here's the thing: is there's nothing that separates a carbon copy cutout of your character and my character. Let's just say both of us, boom, we have the exact same gear at the end of phase 6, Sno, you and me. Our characters are identical, but the way we play them is going to have very, very small differences in the way that we play, right? In the way that we execute. And that's what makes our character ours. And that's the uniqueness there, right? It doesn't come from like, in the way that we interact with our raid, it doesn't come from like us playing by ourselves kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's at least for me. Maybe there are people who are like, I want to make a spell power hunter. Shout out to Malin. He's like, I want to make a spell power hunter and be the most annoying person on the server. I'm gonna take an Eltharian's tier, and he did, and just be a spell power hunter and be absolutely useless in raids. But he likes making people mad when they inspect him. So, some people enjoy the game in that aspect and have a connection to their character there. But would he have enjoyed it the same way if there weren't other people to make mad? Probably not. So, in my opinion, you get a bond with your character through the interactions you have with other people and the usefulness. So not so much the your own identity for yourself.
Yeah.
Maybe that's me. Maybe other people have a different experience, but that's mine.
I mean, all of this comes back to this overarching thing. He does wrap it up towards the end where he says that fresh TBC would be a solution, or fresh servers are a potential solution. And I'm actually okay with that. I'd be okay with fresh TBC. Right, like just because I disagree with some things that he said, like I'm not necessarily completely against all his points. Like I think fresh TBC might be interesting. I don't know whether I would partake in it because I like the character that I've leveled up through Classic and such. Mm-hmm. But I can understand that, hey, some people want a completely fresh TBC server. I don't know whether that would be a good idea to implement right now, though. That's a whole nother question, because would you want? It goes back to our thing we've talked about in previous episodes with dividing your player base, having like a fresh TBC server and then a current TBC server continues on. It complicates things.
I don't like fresh TBC for 3 reasons. One, I think it contradicts the idea of this is the way the game was back in the day. No, you transferred your character over from Naxx and you cried when you replaced your level 60 gear, like with greens and shit. That was the experience back then, was replacing your gear from Naxx and crying. So it goes against the idea of, this is the spirit or the experience of the game. 2, it makes it so that the people who had invested in the game get nothing out of it in the future, which if you're saying that everybody should be equal playing field, then I think that's an atomic solution to this. And you're just saying bomb everything, start over. And I don't think that's the solution either. In fact, I would just go and I just wouldn't level again. I just do classic plus at that point. I wouldn't want to have my character be something that I have to level up all over again, because I'm a Thunder Fury warrior right now, right? It's like, why would I want to throw all that away when I could use Thunder Fury for the beginning of all of Kara and shit like that, and have that be something that I carry with me? It just doesn't make sense. And then the third reason is it just means that you're going to have another race all the way up, and then people are going to have an experience in Outland where they're literally the only person leveling. Joker will be alone by himself in Outland.
Joker will be 70. Everyone else is still 30.
Sorry. He'll be in ZG, and then he'll be in Outland. But it'll be I don't know. It's just going to feel like a completely different experience throughout the game, where people aren't coming over with new gear or anything like that. Sure, it would help the people who or old gear, I guess. Sure, it won't. It would help the people who would are rolling shamans or paladins. It would help them have more people to play with, but it means you have to get in on the ground floor, and it doesn't allow people to come in later in that, a few months later, and join TBC. Right? This allows people to feel like they don't have to put in a ton of effort and can join TBC at any time and play with their friends. Right? That's the thing, is I think the 58 boost is good, because if I really want to play with my friend, I can just get a 58 and not feel like complete shit, having to level 1 to 58 and hate my life again. So I don't like the leveling experience from there. I like getting to the content that's newer. I like getting to the content where you play with other people and stuff. And that for me is kind of the thing that I would. Those are 3 reasons that I wouldn't really want like complete fresh, or I guess I wouldn't play on complete fresh. Do I understand that people might want to? Sure, but do I want it for myself? No, but it doesn't mean that I don't want it for everybody else.
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
If they want it, they can have it. Maybe it fractures the player base. I don't know, but I don't like cannibalizing my own audience as a game company.
Yeah. Well, I mean, those are his main points anyway. I feel like we addressed pretty much all his main points, to be fair to him. And then I don't feel like he's being particularly malicious about this. He's just passionate like everyone else. And the most interesting thing about like the statistics on our podcast is every time we talk about boosting or anything like that, 5,000 comments, guys. 5,000 comments in a YouTube. I've never seen like a 10,000 view video get like 100 plus 120 comments before it even got further. People are really passionate about the boost or anti-boost. And I think like a lot of people just have to at least have an open mind, at least. Or I think the problem is a lot of people have been kind of looking at one aspect of the problem. And then if you disagree with one aspect of the problem, they think you disagree with everything else. Or they kind of like blanket it as like you're either yes or no. When there's layers in between where you can agree with some things, disagree with some other parts. But I think at the end of the day, both of us are for it just because of the community aspect. I think both of us look at it as a plus for the community.
Yeah, I always want as many people as possible enjoying the game that I love because it means that it's good for the game. So I am always in favor of something that will bring more people in and not make people turn away from the game. And this, I don't think will ever turn anybody away from the game. I don't think people are going to quit over this. I just think it will bring in a net more people than it will make leave. And even the people that leave, I don't think would have stayed around for as long anyway. And you'll end up at the end of TBC with more people because of this. That's my firm opinion on this. Is you're going to have a healthier game all throughout because of this. Do I think it should be free? Yeah, I think it should be free. I think it should be free. So do I agree with him on that? Yeah, doesn't mean it completely dismantles the argument kind of thing. So I think the state should be boost is free. Should be to anywhere from 58 to 60. Like depending on how hard it is to level. Some people were saying you can go to Outland at 58 and it's easy, but I don't remember it being easy. In fact, at 60 right now, it seems pretty hard. I think they like changed it near Wrath to be easier, but so anywhere from there, depending on what is, should be free, and I don't think it's going to harm the game. So that's my stance on it, and I don't see that really changing anytime soon. Even with what anybody, like, this is going to sound like stubborn, but I don't think anybody could actually change my mind, because I don't think there's actually anything because I just care about the game being healthy and having more players. And I don't think this works against that, right? If somebody can prove to me that this works against that, then I would change my mind. But I struggle to think that there is ever a way that this harms more people than it helps.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think the overarching thing is that we're both kind of looking at it from the point of how do you keep the game healthy? How do you keep people coming into the game and such? And whereas the people who might be against it, I feel like a lot of them look at it more from a point of, well, this is my classic experience. I don't want this in the game, or I don't want any element of retail even coming near my classic experience. And I mean, it's hard. You can't make both sides happy. And Blizzard as a company has to choose: do you want more players at the end of TBC going into Wrath and such, or do you want to keep the true no changes classic feeling through the entire thing, but potentially maybe sabotage a little bit of your game as far as numbers go? But yeah, again, I don't think either of us has like a perfect solution or anything. It's just a solution, and it's a decent enough solution, I think, for now. But yeah. I think that's about all I can say on that.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I thought it was like to give Madseason credit, I thought it was like a well done video, and the duration is still.
Yeah, for a 1 hour video, it was very, very well put together.
Yeah, it's very well put together, and the fact that it's edited all throughout, like, big shout out to that. So, I think his arguments, some of them are good, and I think some of them hit like an aspect of why you could be anti-boosting. But for the reality of the situation, I think that it does more harm than it does good, and it gatekeeps, and that's something that I'm not really against. Because here's the thing, Snow. This will blow your mind for a second. This will blow your mind. If I'm a new player and I want to level from 1 to 60, I can make a character and not boost it. So I could still do that and have that experience. So if I'm somebody who invests and really wants that experience, I can have it.
I mean, the interesting thing, people are doing that. I have seen there's been groups of people who have made Discords, and they've gone through, they're like, we're gonna get the classic experience before TBC launches, and they have like these whole leveling communities who have grouped up and they're going through the classic experience. I think that's cool.
Yeah.
And they can do that if they want.
Yeah, my friend is doing that. She's got like a group of like 4 people on Fairlina. I didn't realize that she was on the same server as me. And I was like, oh, hey, what the fuck? And then she's like, yeah, I'm just going to level like snail's pace. And they are leveling the least efficient I've ever seen in my entire life. They only play when they're together. It's all 5 of them. And they've been playing for a month and they're level 30. So I'm like, good Lord. And they play a lot. They have a lot of playtime, but they're literally like running all the way to Scarlet Monastery. Like nobody's summoning them. They're running all the way to Scarlet Monastery to go do like SM one time and then Hearth and log off. And I'm just like, holy shit. Like they'll play like a lot of hours, but it's they're killing Murlocs in a group of 5. I'm like, this experience split is not doing you guys any favors. But they don't care. They're just leveling together to like have fun with their friends. And that might be their classic experience. And I would never, ever do that as a hardcore player, right? So like somebody said in the chat, this is only really from the perspective of hardcore players. There might be people who really do love that leveling aspect of it, but I don't think this hurts them either, because they can still opt into that if they really want it. So it's an optional service.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the arguments has been that like by offering the boost, you take away like any chance of the leveling being healthy. But let's be real, guys, the leveling is going to die out regardless. Servers become top heavy in every single MMO since the dawn of mankind. The servers become top heavy.
Of course. Because leveling is something that finishes at some point for every character, right? You no longer stop. All right, so you no longer continue leveling. You have a stopping point. So...
But yeah, I think this has been a fun podcast, guys. We went real long on this one. You guys that like our super long podcasts have a whole 3 hours plus, I think, today.
See, we didn't talk about speedrunning for 2 hours.
It's true.
This time
it was only like 30 minutes.
Yeah, it was like a sixth of the podcast. We just had to make the podcast longer so that it's less a percentage of it. But good luck timestamping this one, man.
Oh yeah. But yeah, always fun. Thank you guys for hanging out. This has been episode 4 of Prepared. We will see you guys next week.